challenge it.
But you said something right before that. Something about if you do not accept the Christian worldview, you cannot stipulate a fact or something like that.
Hey, Ken, turn yourself up.
Yeah.
You're very quiet. Or speak closer to the mic.
Okay, I'm as close to the mic as I can get.
Yeah.
Okay, that is better.
Can you repeat
Yeah. My position is that the Christian worldview, which is categorized by the 66 books of the Bible, is the only coherent worldview. If one so much as even doesn't accept, let alone denies the Bible, you will not be able to make sense of any stipulation, proposition, or proposed fact.
Okay, I do not hold that position, so in that case, it would be completely pointless to debate me.
Do you accept that the Christian God is actual?
Fuck no.
Okay. Are you an atheist?
Yes.
Okay. Do you deny the existence of God, or do you just have a lack of belief?
I have a lack of belief.
Okay. Do you lack belief in God because God is not rationally justified?
I lack belief because there's no proof. There's no evidence. There's no way to demonstrate that he exists.
Okay.
Or she, or whatever.
Okay, so you assert there's no evidence. Now, in the case that the Christian God exists, it's stipulated that he is the creator of all things. So the entire universe would be evidence for God under that worldview. But since you reject it, then your position would have to be that the entire universe is not evidence for God. Do you hold to that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, since you hold that the universe does not have its causal origin in the God of the Bible, what is the causal origin of the universe?
I have no idea.
If you do not know what the causal origin of the universe is, how do you rule out the Christian God as the causal origin?
I have not ruled out the Christian origin or the Christian God as the causal origin of the universe.
Yes, you have.
I am not convinced that it's the case.
No, now you're changing from a declaration to a state of mind. You said there is no evidence for the Christian God, which entails that the universe does not have its causal origin in God. So I'll simply ask you, does the universe have its causal origin in the God of the Bible?
Okay, so I'll rephrase. I don't know. I cannot prove that he is not, but I can prove that he is. Is that better?
Okay, so, since you do not know what the causal origin of the universe is, nor can you rule out that the universe has its causal origin in the God of the Bible, then how can you say there's no evidence for God? Because in the case that the Christian God exists, then the universe would in fact be evidence for God. When you say the universe is not evidence for God, you have ruled out the Christian God as its causal origin. But you just told me that you do not know what the causal origin is. So on what basis do you rule out the God of the Bible being the causal origin?
I don't rule it out.
You did. You said there's no evidence for God. Therefore, if there's no evidence for God, then the universe does not have its causal origin in God.
Whoa, no. That's not the same at all. Just because there's no evidence for it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Is the universe evidence for God?
I don't know.
If you don't know, then how do you know it's not evidence?
Oh my God.
How do you know it is?
He just said he didn't know. Like,
well, if you don't know, well, sir, the burden of proof is on anybody who makes a stipulation, assertion, or predication. I'll be more than happy to defend the Christian worldview. Okay. Now, my question was to get him to account for his statement. Okay,
Let him talk. Let him talk.
let him talk. Yeah.
Well, he's breaking up.
I think they're saying to let you talk, actually, Darth.
All right, whose turn is it?
We can all take turns. Just go ahead.
Okay. If you state the universe is not evidence for God, that is not the same thing as verbalizing your mental state that you are unaware of evidence. To state the universe is God is a de facto statement that the universe does not have its causal origin in God. So you have to make up your mind. Are you making an assertion that the universe is not evidence for God, or do you not know what the universe is evidence of?
Well, first of all, we have to agree on a unified
I'd
definition
like
of
to. I'm
God.
asking Ken. I'll speak with you momentarily.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Ken here. I rephrased earlier, and I changed it from no to I don't know.
Okay. So you don't know. So you can't declare there's no evidence for God, can you?
Yes, I admitted that. I rephrased. We've already been through this.
Okay. Good. Now, since you reason, you have lack of belief in God because God's not rationally justified, then something else must exist that replaces God as the foundation of your capacity to reason.
Almost vegan. Mute yourself, please.
What is,
guys? Can you turn your mics off so they can
Yeah,
talk?
sorry.
since you lack belief in God, and that's a product of reason, and therefore God would not be the ultimate foundation of reality and the foundation of your capacity to reason, what is it ultimately in terms of the nature of reality that provides for your capacity to reason and reason that there's a lack of belief? What is it that replaces God, sir?
There's not necessarily anything that replaces God.
So you don't have a basis for reason?
No.
You're an
Okay,
atheist.
good. Then if you don't have a basis for reason, then you
I-
can't
I-
verbalize you lack belief, because then that lack of belief would just simply be an arbitrary declaration and not based upon reason. Do you have the capacity to reason?
I think so.
Okay, now, since you lack belief in God, then whatever is the ultimacy of reality that provides for all contingent states must be the foundation and the basis for your capacity to reason. What is the ultimate nature of reality that would provide for the viability and meaningfulness of your capacity to reason?
I don't know.
Well, then you don't have a basis that for reason, then, do you? Then you should have a lack of belief in your reason, then.
Before we even started this debate, I stated that since I am not a fundamentalist evangelical Christian or whatever, debating me would be pointless.
No, it's not pointless because you're an atheist. Now, why do you believe you can reason when you don't have a rational justification? You should have a lack of belief in your capacity to reason because you do not know if there is any ultimate foundation for reason. So you should have a lack of belief, not only in the ultimacy of reality, which you say you don't know, therefore you don't have an ultimate basis for reason. So you are violating your own principle that you have lack of belief in the absence of rational justification. Since you don't have rational justification for the foundation of reason, you should lack belief in your capacity to reason. Why do you violate your own principle?
How do you know God is the ultimacy of your reality?
I'll get to you momentarily. I'd like Ken to answer the question.
Dude, you're
What?
making no sense to me.
No, I'm asking you, you hold that you have the capacity to reason and reason that there's insufficient justification or evidentiary support for God. That's a product of your reason. But you told me you don't know of any foundation or basis for your capacity to reason. So according to your principle, that if something doesn't have rational justification, you lack belief. So since you don't have justification for the foundation of reason, in order to be consistent, you would have a lack of belief in your reason and its foundation. But you don't. You're violating your own principle.
The reason I'm not providing a reason for my reasoning is because I I don't know enough about it. I'm
So
not.
I asked you why you violate your own principle. Is your principle that when it comes to foundational concepts such as God or the ultimate nature of reality, that you require rational justification in order to believe?
I require evidence, sure.
Good. What's your evidence that there's a foundation in the ultimate nature of reality that will provide for your capacity to reason?
I don't know.
So you don't, then you should have a lack of belief in your reason then.
Sure.
Because if you believe in your reason, then you're violating your own principle.
What? I'm not getting any of this.
You're violating your own principle. If God is defined as the ultimacy of reality that provides for all contingency, but you lack belief in God because God is not rationally justified, then something else exists ultimately that is not God, that actually provides for your capacity to reason. But you told me you know of no foundation that provides for your capacity to reason. So you don't have a justification
You know,
for your
this
reason.
actually reminds
So
me
in order
of
for you to be consistent, you should have lack of belief in it. But you don't have a lack of belief. You believe in your reason in spite of the fact that you have no foundation or basis for it, and hence you are violating your own principle.
Fine, I'll play the Matt Dillahunty card. I believe in my reasoning because of its continued reliability, ability to produce effective results.
How do you know your reasoning is basically reliable?
Because it continues to produce effective
Did you
results.
use your reasoning to determine your reasoning was basically reliable?
I'm circle jerking just like you.
How did I circle jerk, sir?
You're using God to as evidence or justification that there is a God.
Did you hear? Did
using
you
the Bible to
hear my?
evidence.
Did you hear my?
Shut up!
Did
You're
you
doing the
did you
same
hear my?
thing I'm
Did you hear my defense for God?
Your
Repeat
defense
that.
for God is indefenseless.
Did you hear my defense for God, sir?
No evidence for him.
Sir, we've already gone full circle. When you say there's no evidence, that includes the universe. But you told me you don't know what the universe is evidence of, so you can't exclude God, can you, sir?
That's
Can
right.
you necessarily exclude God as the causal origin, sir? Because
No,
if you say no, then you can't say there's no evidence for God. You can say that you're unpersuaded, but you cannot say there's no evidence,
You can still
as you
say that
already did.
there's no evidence.
Okay. All right. I think we're done. I think we're done here. Who's next?
Yeah, I was
When
gonna say,
God-
wait a
God-
sec.
What?
Wait, Osmond and Almost, just wait a second. Ken, are you done, or do you have more that you want to say to Darth?
I was done before this debate begun.
Okay, so
By the way, when you're done with this, can you DM me the link to where this recording will be posted?
yeah, if you look in the recording voice chat, where it's posted. Okay, two things. If you look in the recording text chat, when this is done, the recording bot will post a link that you'll have access to. Where it will be posted, if it is posted, will be my Discord live stream channel. I'll DM that to you. Just again, I don't have you as a
Thank you.
friend, so you have to accept my friend request because I have my DMs.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll do that right now.
So who would
later?
Okay, so who did someone call it first though? Who wants to who was the first one to call it? I think that was Ruth who's talking there. You can go when you have time. I know some people said it first though. Does Asmund or Almost want to go right now?
Yeah, I just want to say that the God can be excluded if God contradicts science or reality or the natural. Like if God has some supernatural traits, he's definitely getting excluded.
Okay. Is there what's the first point you want me to respond to?
Like you said, how can you exclude God? If God
Yeah.
contradicts reality, like such as all the supernatural bullshit
Okay.
stories
Can
in
you
the
tell
Bible or
me?
in the Quran.
Can you tell me what you observe that contradicts the existence of a creator God?
Like, first of all, do you believe that the Bible is literally true?
Yeah, I hold that the 66 books of the Bible are the infallible, inerrant inspiration of God. God sovereignly guided the authors of the Bible using their personalities and their agency without being robots to write down the very message that he intended without error. Now, what
Okay, now-
observation do you have that shows there's no creator God, sir?
Okay, so I was actually an ex-Muslim. I'm an atheist now, just to let you know. And yeah, for instance, do you believe that all human beings were created from
I asked you a
Adam and
question,
Eve?
sir. I asked you a question. You
Adam
dodged
and
it.
Eve evolution.
May I
There you
finish,
go. I
please?
didn't dodge it.
I asked you a question. You dodged it and asked me a question. And out of courtesy, I answered your question when you dodged
Okay.
mine. Now, I asked you a question.
I
What
didn't.
observation falsifies that there are no, that falsifies the concept of any creator God existing?
When God tells you that I created humans from Adam and Eve, science contradicts it by saying that evolution, that cannot biologically happen. And when God
Okay,
says that the world is,
well, first of all, we're
hold on,
talking
hold on,
about,
don't cut
we're
me off,
talking
don't
about
cut me off,
creator
don't
God,
cut me
sir.
off. Yeah, well, you said that the Bible is God's
No,
word.
I said creator God, sir. The Bible would be included in that, but it extends beyond that. What observation falsifies
No, no,
any
no.
creator God concept?
Hold on. Do you believe that the Bible is the word of God? Yes or
Right.
no?
Okay. Okay. This is the second time I've had
Yes
to answer the
or
question.
no?
Yes, I'd like
Yes?
an answer to my
Okay.
question. I will repeat the
I
question that
did.
you have dodged 3 times.
It's evolution. It's
You did not.
evolution. I
Okay.
answered you.
How does
The observation is
okay, well, first of all, you can't observe universal common ancestry. When you say evolution, do you mean
Oh, come on.
universal?
That's
Do you mean
science denialism
would
right there.
you excuse me? I didn't deny anything. I asked you a question. And I didn't even
Okay.
get the question out. Now, when you say evolution, do you mean a universal common ancestry?
That's the scientific consensus. That's not my position.
I didn't ask
Like,
you
you could
about
go,
the consensus. I asked you, are you defining evolution as a universal common ancestry?
I am reporting the science. I'm not defining anything. I'm not a
Sir,
scientist.
are you defining the word
Yes.
evolution as a universal common ancestry? Now,
No. That's, you're talking about macro evolution, like not micro evolution.
yeah. All right. Okay. Are you using the word evolution to mean a universal common ancestry?
That's just a part of evolution and not the meaning
Are
of
you
evolution.
defining evolution as
No,
universal
that's
common
not the
ancestry?
definition.
How are you defining evolution?
Evolution is the changes, or are the changes that happen over time in living species
Yeah,
over very long periods of time.
creationists don't disagree with biological variation, sir. So how does biological variation
Okay, the
reproduction?
origin.
May I finish? Okay. Are you? Oh,
Yes, go
so the origin. Well, does evolution deal with the origin of life, sir? That's abiogenesis, not evolution.
Exactly, that's abiogenesis. Do you
Right. So
believe?
good.
Do you think
Okay.
that it's true
Did
or
somebody
not?
observe abiogenesis, sir?
No, but there's very
Okay.
solid
So good.
evidence
So
that
we
it
okay.
may
So
be.
we can leave
Notice how you
abiogenesis
cut me
out.
off every time.
No, I'm trying to point out to you
Yeah.
that you didn't observe abiogenesis, so you can't appeal to abiogenesis as a falsifier for created gods. Now, what did you observe next
Evidence
that falsifies
isn't always an
creator gods?
observation. That's empirical evidence. There is
Okay,
other
I'm just
kinds.
gonna pipe in for a sec. I'm just gonna say it's getting very nippy, so just let each other finish points. Like,
All right.
Okay.
So what singular observation are you referring to that falsifies that there are no creator gods?
I'm not saying that there are no gods. There might
Well, you're
be
an
some
atheist, aren't you?
creatures outside.
Jesus.
Atheist means
Right.
the lack of belief in the
Okay. Do you lack a belief in all gods?
God. What do you mean by God? Like a creator of the
Okay,
universe?
a
There could
creator
be some
God. Do you
alien
lack belief
civilization
in
that
all
created the
gods?
universe.
Do you lack belief in all creator gods?
Abrahamic gods or Abrahamic
No, I didn't
religion?
say
Yes.
Abrahamic. I said, do you lack belief in all creator gods?
Well, define God so I can answer you.
God could be defined as an eternal, non-contingent, necessary being that has intelligence and consciousness and the power to effectuate the initial conditions of the universe.
Eternal? No, I don't believe such being
Okay,
exists.
now, what singular observation are you referring to that falsifies that no creator God exists?
within the, I am a naturalist, so I don't believe in the supernatural.
I didn't ask you what you
If you
believe.
say-
I said, what observation
Yeah, well, that's part of the
falsifies
answer.
any creator gods?
The lack of observation. That's the answer.
Okay,
You need to provide the
are you offering? No, you told me that science
No, I didn't.
falsifies the God concept. Is that correct?
Look, my position is I am not convinced.
I asked you sir.
Your
Every time I
position, you
ask you
should
a
convince
question,
me. Not
you are evading my question, and the conversation
I am
is
not.
going nowhere. I have
No.
answered every single one of your questions, and you are evading mine.
Okay, try again. I will answer it.
Okay.
Okay, try again.
How does any observation that you have or any other person falsify that no creator gods exist?
There is no single observation that directly denies the possible existence of a God.
You told me
Did you get
science
that?
falsifies God. Did you not? Did you say that?
No, it's God that falsifies science.
I heard. No,
If you
I
read the
heard
Bible,
you.
let me
I
finish,
heard you.
please.
The Bible.
Let me
The Bible
finish,
is only one
please.
of a number of
Let me
gods.
finish, please. Yeah, and it's full of shit. Like saying the world was created in 6 days. That's
Okay.
fucking nonsense.
How do you know that's false, sir?
Okay, now it's getting into science denialism. Like you
Yeah.
just need to read some
No, I
basic
asked you a
physics. And
question.
universe
It's
is
not a science denial,
13.8 billion.
sir.
I'm not a science teacher, so I'm not going to answer those.
Yeah,
You can
well,
just educate
neither
yourself
am I. So we're on a
or
level
going
playing.
online. There's a lot of peer-reviewed papers and
Right. Now,
read
sir,
those
you're
articles.
changing the topic.
Educate
You're
yourself.
moving the goalpost. You are
No,
moving the
like when you
goalpost.
deny
We were
science, I'm not
discussing.
even
We were
talking.
discussing. Okay, listen to the moderator of the room. This is going nowhere. He is talking past me.
Yeah.
I have
When
answered
you
every
deny
single one of his
science and
questions.
reality,
You're
it's
over
going nowhere.
talking me. You are over talking
No,
me.
you are.
Almost. It's
Now,
not fair to
I have answered every single one of your questions, and every
No, you
time I
cut me
ask
off,
you a
dude. Come
question,
on.
you are completely evasive. So we're going to have to move on
cut
because
me off.
you don't know how to have a conversation. So we need to move on to somebody else.
You deny science, we need to move on, sir.
Okay,
Okay,
one sec.
yeah,
One
sir,
sec. One sec.
that's a cliche.
Science denialism.
Darth,
I
one
can't
sec.
deal
It's me
with that.
talking. It's the server owner talking right now. Okay, almost.
Yeah.
He is putting a question to you, so you should answer his question before asking him a question. That is the kind of fair way to proceed. So, Darth,
I
put your
believe
question to him.
Almost vegan.
I'm sorry.
What observation or set of observation necessarily falsify all creator God concepts?
There is none.
Good. Well, you contradicted
Okay.
yourself because you said science
No.
falsifies
Hold
the
on.
existence of God.
Almost.
It
Let him follow up.
falsifies the existence of your God, the Bible God, and the
No,
Muslim
you didn't
God.
say that in the beginning. You're now moving the goal. Sir, listen to me. One thing I will not put up with when I'm in a dialogue with
Come on,
somebody
dude, you're
is when
dishonest.
somebody lies about what they say. You are now lying.
No, you
changed
lied.
your tune.
You
said
didn't say all
science
gods in
falsifies. Okay,
at the
okay,
first
we're gonna
time.
move on because now you're lying. Okay, I don't talk with people when they
No,
start.
man, you're dishonest.
I heard you.
didn't say
Hey,
all
dude,
gods.
listen to me. I debate
You
all the
didn't
time.
include that.
You stated that science falsifies
I
the
debate
existence
too.
of God. Okay,
You're
you didn't say
of your
science
God, not all
falsifies.
gods.
Okay, listen. All right, we're
Your
gonna move
God.
on. This guy is stuck on stupid.
Okay.
Come on, dude.
So I guess if do you have anything else that you want to say there almost before we move to the next person?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I hold the same position as probably any other atheist. I do not have knowledge beyond like what happens before the Big Bang, like any other scientist. When you define God as an entity outside of the universe, like that's where my knowledge and basically the knowledge of every other scientist stop. We cannot answer those questions.
Okay.
However, when you say that the biblical God or the Islamic Allah is true. Now, I have the word of God in his books, which is the Bible and the Quran. I can easily debunk that shit by science. That's it.
Okay. So
Okay,
Darth,
good.
Darth,
Okay,
one-
all
one
right, you
second.
can debunk that. Okay, good. If you can debunk the Bible, if you can debunk the Bible by
I cannot
science,
Okay, wait,
science can.
guys, come on, one sec. Okay.
well, he had a chance to speak.
no,
I'd like a
Darth,
chance to respond.
Darth, chill. I'm gonna 1 second. So okay, almost you've said your piece. Darth, have the last word, and then Agnak wants to go.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, he can't claim that science debunks the Bible, okay? Because in order to launch a science being viable, you're first going to have to establish what the ultimate nature of reality is that science depends on. You're going to have to establish through a rational justification that the external physical world is actual, you're going to have to justify, more importantly, that there are causal connections between events and that nature operates according to some laws before you can even invoke science. Science depends on those fundamental presuppositions, several others. So I will just simply ask you one simple question. In order to use science as a weapon against the Bible, and science requires that nature operate according to the principle of causal connections and causal relations, do you have a rational justification that there are causal connections and relations between events in order to establish science?
Are you talking about determinism or?
Okay, wait
Do you have
a sec. Okay, we were giving you the last word there. Are you saying now you want to keep going with almost, or do you want the next person?
Well, he's just making a wild claim, and he needs to support it. Can you justify the necessary prerequisite of causal connections between events in order to launch science as a viable medium to attack the Bible? So you have to defend that there are causal connections and relations between events. Can you do so?
Again, the conversation now shifts to, is science true or not, or what is
No, I didn't
defining
ask you if it
science,
was
which is
true.
just science
I asked you,
denialism.
can you justify causality,
You don't
sir?
need to cover it by any pseudo logic.
Can you justify causality?
Straight up science denialism.
Okay,
Can I
we're
justify
gonna move on. This
what does
guy,
that
all
have
he
to
wants to
do
do is spew slogans. Well, we're gonna go next to the next person.
methodology.
This guy does not know how to have a conversation.
Yeah, Isaac, just
Wait,
like we can move on.
almost. Yeah. So we're
This is like
the reason
level
we're
one
giving Darth,
creationism.
guys, the reason we're giving Darth the last word is because he's the guest in the server. So he's saying he's done. You've said your piece.
Yeah.
If you want to go again after, you can ask him if he wants to go
Yeah.
again. So who wants to go next? I know I heard Asmund, I heard Ruth, I heard Agnak. I mean, who wants to pop in?
I'm interested in this.
You guys can choose who wants to go. Who wants to go?
Can I go?
By the way, how many people are in the room?
Maybe like 70. I don't know. Yeah, I can check. One sec.
I can go now if no one else is stressed
No,
to go.
I'd like to.
77.
Okay.
So
Can I
who's
go?
going
Can
now?
I go?
Or what?
Sure, go for it, Ruth. Was that Ruth? I can't tell from the voice.
Give me like 2 minutes. I'm talking with my grandpa for a second.
Okay, well, someone else beat you to it there, Agnak. You're like third on the list right now. So whoever was just... I thought I heard Ruth. Did I hear Ruth, or am I tripping out?
Yeah.
Then let's let Ruth go.
All right. So basically, you're making wrong stipulations about science. For example, that science requires causality, science observes causality. And furthermore, you're pretty much using the God of the gaps. Like, you're saying that we need
Actually,
God
no,
to
I didn't offer
explain
that at all.
rationality.
I did not offer any God of the gaps argument. I didn't point to certain things that we do not understand and say, therefore, God did it. You never heard me say
Rationality.
that. Okay? No, I simply said that the God of the Bible is the necessary prerequisite for everything. I didn't say that I'm saying there are certain unknown things, therefore God did it. Okay, so you've misrepresented the position.
You're assuming
Number
that.
two, you made another fundamental error when you said that science doesn't need to presuppose causality because we see it. That is a logical fallacy. Eyesight is a set of causal connections. Do you accept that statement? Is eyesight a set of causal connections?
Eyesight is a biological function.
Okay, that's not in dispute. Is eyesight a label for a set of causal connections, sir?
I do not think that applies, no.
Okay, well then you don't understand science, okay? So how could you see something if there were no causal relations between events?
I see something because light comes to my eyes and my brain
Okay, is that
interprets those light.
is that a causal relation?
That's a causal relation, but there are many
Good.
causal relations except for that.
So eyesight is a set of causal relations?
If you want to define it like that, sure.
No, it's not if. It is defined that way. Eyesight is defined as a set of causal relations. Do you accept that?
I don't think so, because if you look,
Okay, well then we're going to have
if
to
you look
go
on the
over it
internet,
again.
you will see a different
Okay,
definition.
how could you have eyesight if there weren't causal connections between events?
That's not saying the same thing that you said.
Okay, sir,
There
you're
is
not,
a-
listen, this is going right over your head. Okay, eyesight and all other sense perceptions are labels for a variety of sets of causal relations and connections. One cannot invoke eyesight without presupposing that eyesight is a set of causal connections. Okay, this is 101 philosophy of science. You could not see anything if there were not causal relations. Now, is eyesight the emittance of photons from a source, such as the sun, traveling through space-time, passing through your cornea and your lens, striking your optic nerve, your retina, and producing an electrical signal that travels up your optic nerve where it is neurologically processed? Is that what eyesight is?
Yes.
Good. Did I just describe to you a set of causal connections?
Yes, you described the causal
Okay,
connection.
good.
but
So
the-
when you appeal, when you try to justify that there are causal connections by invoking eyesight, causal connections have to exist first before you can invoke eyesight and then say eyesight, therefore causal connections. So you are committing the fallacy of begging the question.
eyesight is explained through causality. That doesn't mean
Okay,
that eyesight
you
itself
cannot
is
appeal.
causality.
Okay, do you know what begging the question is? Begging the question is where you presuppose the conclusion in any of your premises and then say, therefore, the conclusion. When you invoke eyesight, it presupposes causality, and then you say, eyesight, therefore causality. So all you are simply saying is causal connections, therefore causal connections. That is a fallacious argument, sir.
Can I please finish my sentence before you
Do
stop
you
me
under,
this time?
but yeah, I'd like you to finish, but do you understand that you've committed a logical fallacy?
No, I don't, because you are mixing
It's
up
begging the
eyesight.
question.
You're not letting me finish the sentence.
This is amazing. I just
Eyesight-
explained to you how you've committed a logical fallacy by presupposing causal connections in the label eyesight and then saying, therefore, causal connections. That is a logical fallacy.
Please let me finish this sentence, okay? You explain eyesight using causality. That doesn't mean that eyesight itself is causality. You understand my sentence?
No, you can't have eyesight without causal connection, sir.
Fine, you can't have eyesight without causal connection.
Right, you
That
have
doesn't
to
mean that eyesight
establish.
itself is causal.
You have to.
connection.
Okay, all right. Listen, we're going to have to move on because you're not even understanding two fundamental things. You're not understanding a fundamental issue of the relationship between the causal principle and the nature of eyesight. And number two, you're not understanding a very common fallacy called begging the question. You are committing the fallacy of begging the question by presupposing your conclusion of causality in the premise when you invoke eyesight. Okay? Now, I've explained this 3 times to you. What I have said is completely uncontroversial and it is ironclad.
I am not presupposing any question. I am explaining to you that we use
You are
causality
presupposing
to explain
causality.
eyesight.
You are presupposing causality when you invoke eyesight, are you not?
I'm using eyesight to I'm using
Are you?
causality
You're
to
not
explain
answering my question. You are presupposing causality when you invoke eyesight.
All right, fine, yes.
Good. When you presuppose the conclusion causality in the premise, which is eyesight, that is the fallacy of begging the question. Now, that's the 4th time I've explained it to you. So how do you account for causality without appealing to a fallacy such as begging the question? You're going to have to appeal to something other than sense perception, because any appeal to sense perception is the fallacy of begging the question. So how do you justify that there are causal connections as the fundamental presupposition of science?
It's what we have the best evidence for.
Yeah, that's a non-answer, sir. That's a cliche. Evidence
Why is that
required.
a
Listen to
non-answer?
me. Do you understand that evidence requires that there be causal connections? Do you understand that?
Why
Without
would you assume that there are not causal connections?
without causal connections and relations. Well, I'm not assuming that. You see, in the Christian worldview, the God of the Bible has revealed that he instituted causality and causal connections. But since you do not accept that, I'm not going to grant to you, when you try to invoke science, that the pillars of science, such as causality or the causal principle, is a given. You're going to have to establish that from within your worldview. And so far, you have not offered a rational justification that doesn't beg the question for causal connections. And without justifying causal connections, you cannot launch science as a viable concept. Now, do you have any other rational justification for causality?
Wait, before that, I want to say that where is your evidence that that just because the Bible said it, that God created causality?
I'll be glad to address that question. I'm awaiting my answer to my question. You are doing the same thing that the gentleman did before. I have been more than gracious to answer your questions, and you are evading me. Do you have a rational justification for that there are causal connections between events so that you can establish at least one of the many prerequisites of science?
I have only observations.
No, that's a fallacy, sir. So you're telling me all you have is a fallacious begging the question, which means
Well, you reading the Bible and seeing that it says that there's God.
I'll be glad to discuss
also
the
an
Bible
observation.
momentarily. What you have just conceded to is that you have no justification for causality, because when you say, I only have invoking eyesight, then you are admitting that your only basis for establishing causality is begging the question. So since you're only appealing to a fallacy, it means that you have no rational justification for causality, sir.
Even if I have rational justification, if I have no rational justification, how does that justify your position?
Okay, without a stat. Well, the issue that we were discussing was that
Let's say for the sake of discussion,
I'd like to finish answering. You stated to me science does not need causality or the uniformity of nature. You directly stated that. Now, my position is that is completely false. Any professor of the philosophy of science, you will learn in the first week in a college course that science requires, before you can do anything scientific, a number of presuppositions or starting points. The first one is the reality of the external physical world. Second, the causal principle, or that there are causal connections. Third, the nature operates according to some laws. In addition to that, you're going to need to establish the sense perception, the reliability of cognitive faculties, and that there are fundamental laws of logic. And there are several other presuppositions, which I won't get into at the moment. But you have not established that there is causality. You said the only thing you have is a begging the question line of reasoning. So you have no justification for causality. And in the absence of justifying causality, you have no viable model for science.
All right, let's say that I agree with you for the sake of discussion, so we can move on to the next point.
Sure.
All right, so now your basis for saying that the Bible says that God created causality, but the only way you know that is by observing the Bible and reading what it says there. So how do you know that you have any more basis than I do?
Why? Because the only way to know anything in my model of reality are through the revelatory acts of God, which include natural revelation and special revelation. Natural revelation includes the very substrata of existence down to molecules etc., chemistry, physics, causality, etc., that these are all natural revelation of God, including God has ordained the basic reliability of human sense perception insofar as we don't have defective eyes or ears or brains. And God has also ordained that we have a basic reliability in cognition and that we're made in his image and we think at a fundamental level according to the laws of logic which reflect his mind and his character. That's how I know it.
All right, let me first ask you a question. Can we just decide whether right now we are talking about a specific type of Christian God or just a conscious God, or what kind of God?
I'm talking only about the Christian God.
Not a creator God in general, Christian specifically?
No, I'm talking about the Christian God.
All right, well, what basis do you have that the Christian God specifically created that and not the Muslim God and not the Jewish God and not any other type of God that there are people who believe in?
Why? Because they don't exist and you cannot put them on the table because that is a contradiction to your worldview. They cannot be put on as a possibility because the only position that you can offer to replace the Christian God is your model of atheistic materialism. To offer another model of reality that is not your own is literally a logical contradiction.
No, it's not. I can argue positions that I don't believe in.
Sir, no, let me explain something to you, right? Models of reality or ultimacies of reality are all-encompassing. They are not contingencies. When you invoke that something is a potential actual, it has to be within a model of reality or worldview. So your worldview is atheistic materialism, is that correct?
Yes, I'm an atheist, but...
Oh, okay, good. Therefore, you cannot put on the table another model of reality that is not your own, because those models of reality, I'm going to explain it to you. Those models of reality are contradictions to the worldview that you're speaking from. Your assertions and predications are only viable with respect to the model of reality that they are dependent upon, which will be your model of reality. Islam, Hinduism, or Buddhism, or other models of reality are not contingencies or possibilities from within your model of reality. So to offer them out of your worldview is a literal logical contradiction.
That's not true. You're misrepresenting
I just
my
explained
stance.
it. I just explained to you twice why it's a logical contradiction.
Because you're misrepresenting it? All right.
I didn't misrepresent you.
Yeah,
I simply
then let me
pointed
explain
out.
it. And show how you're misrepresenting
Just give me
it.
10 seconds. Give me 10 seconds. I simply pointed out that you invoking other models of reality as potential actuals is a logical contradiction to your model of reality.
All right, let me explain my stance and my atheism. My atheism is very similar to one stipulated by Sam Harris, that I don't believe in God in the same way that I don't believe in the tooth fairy. There is no evidence for it, but I cannot stipulate that it does not exist. I just can say that there's no evidence for it.
How do you know there's no evidence?
Because none has been presented until...
What's the causal origin of the universe, sir?
Well, the best explanation according to science is the Big Bang.
Right, so that's it. That's called abduction. Abductive conclusions are not logically necessitated. Number two, you cannot, you did not address, abduction is an inference to the best explanation, okay? An inference to the best explanation, the conclusion is not logically necessitated. It can be wrong. Now, you asserted that there are other potential actual worldviews. You cannot offer another worldview because it will contradict your worldview. You can only offer your worldview as a potential actual vis-a-vis my worldview. To offer another worldview as a potential actual other than your worldview, it's a logical contradiction.
All right. In response to your first point, yes, we can be wrong. We can always be wrong. That's the point of science, to be open to things being different.
You
than
haven't
what we
established science, sir. You have to establish causality first before you can invoke science. Can you establish causality?
Can you establish causality?
Sir, can you establish causality?
No. Can you establish causality?
Okay, good. Since you can't establish causality, you can't invoke science then.
I can invoke it as the best explanation.
Science requires several presuppositions as brute facts. One of those is that there are causal connections between events. Since you asserted you cannot account for causality or causal connections, you don't have a basis for science, because science depends upon the causal principle for its viability. So until you justify several of the presuppositions of science, starting with causality, you cannot invoke science, sir.
Well, I personally think that your second argument, that I can't argue for something that I don't believe in, is just, it's not true. And I think that anyone else here will say that it's not true.
Are you familiar with the law?
Does anyone believe that's true?
Are you familiar with the law of non-contradiction? Do you know
What's
what that
the law
is?
of non-contradiction?
Okay, the law of non-contradiction says A cannot equal not A. The law of excluded middle says something is either A or it's not A. Now, when we speak from our respective worldviews or models of reality, a model of reality from which we speak is all-encompassing, whether you realize that or not. So that model of reality, that frame of reference, which will be all-encompassing, that frame of reference is either true or it's not true. Now, before I complete my explanation, do you accept that a model of reality that we each speak from is either true or not true?
Yes.
Okay, now, when you speak and you offer contingencies and possibilities, they have to be specific to your model of reality, right? If you invoke a possibility that is not specific to your model of reality, then other models of reality contradict your model of reality. You can
because I can
listen to me. Listen, this is something that I know very well, sir. You can only invoke possibilities and contingencies that are specific to your model of reality. Since other models of reality are not contingencies that are derivative and specific to your model of reality, they would stand in absolute contradiction to your model of reality. So you cannot invoke another model of reality as a contingency from within your model of reality. So either your model of reality that you speak from is true or it is not true. If you invoke another model of reality as a potential actual that it may be true, then in the case that it is, then the worldview that you're speaking from is false, destroying all of your assertions that depend upon your model of reality. So I've explained this 4 times to you. To offer another model of reality as a potential actual, as an alternative to the Christian worldview, is a logical contradiction.
All right, I let you speak for a long while. Can you please give me now 2 minutes to speak uninterrupted?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. You're presupposing something, because I can think of a lot of possibilities. I have an imagination, and I can
Your
think of
mic
a
is
lot of
something wrong with your mic.
Is it okay now?
No.
Testing, testing, testing.
Ruth,
No.
your mic is a little bit fucked up, so I'm going to say we will go to the next person until you get your mic working. You want to try one more time?
Trying again. Is it working now?
Your mic's a little fucked. Okay, there was 2 people who called it before Destiny. Do either Asmund or Agnak still want to go?
Can I go?
Who's that? Destiny was before you, whoever's talking there.
Pedo Rescue Driver.
Agnak.
Okay, so just to be clear, does Agnak or Asmund wants to go? Rescue Driver, you can go after Destiny.
Yes.
Does Agnak or Asmund want to go?
Yes.
I can't hear
You can
who's
go there.
talking right now. I'm
can
on
go
my iPod. Who is that who's speaking right there?
It's Agnak. Agnak.
Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead, man.
I'm ready to go.
Okay,
So,
go for it.
no one else.
Yep, go for it.
All right. So, what is your proposition, Darth?
Sorry. Unless Darth, did you have anything else to say with Ruth there?
No, we're done. He has no foundation from which to speak. He can't establish science, so you can't use science as a falsifier. He didn't even understand the presuppositions of science, and there's nothing more to say.
All right, Agnak, you're up.
All right. What's your proposition, Darth?
My proposition is that the Christian God exists, and I know this in virtue of his natural and special revelation. His special revelation are each and every time he communicated with human beings such as Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Moses, the Old Testament prophets, and ultimately and finally
How do
through
you know
Jesus.
this?
I'm answering your question, sir. Ultimately and finally through Jesus Christ, his apostles, and them being guided by the Holy Spirit to record objectively and historically God's special revelation.
How do you know these revelations actually occurred?
How do I know that they occur? Because God's sovereignty and his omniscience has secured it. And the God's revelation being the ultimate and final authority is self-attesting and self-authenticating.
How do you know God's revelation is self-attesting and whatever the fuck you just said?
Right, because everyone who holds to an ultimate authority considers their ultimate authority self-authenticating. It would be a logical incoherency.
How do you know God is
listen, if you keep on interrupting me in the midst of answering, I'll just move on to somebody else. Everyone who holds to the concept of an ultimate authority when they make stipulations would have to hold to that in principle. It would be philosophically devastating for you to deny that one's ultimate authority verifies itself.
How do you know that?
How do I know that? Because if I'm going to explain to you that it would be a violation of logic to say that the ultimate authority is verified by an independent source would mean that it is not the ultimate authority and hence a logical contradiction. So the ultimate authority would by definition have to verify and authenticate itself. Do you reject that in principle?
Repeat that.
Do you reject in principle that one's ultimate authority would need to authenticate and verify itself, because to appeal to an independent source would be a logical contradiction? Do you reject that in principle?
I don't know.
Okay, what's your worldview since I told you mine?
Mine is the atheist worldview.
Okay, do you deny the existence of God, or do you lack belief in God?
I lack belief in God.
Okay, do you lack belief in God because God is not rationally justified?
I lack belief in God because I don't have any reason.
Okay, listen, dude, you got to get closer to your microphone. It sounds like you're halfway across the gymnasium.
I do not believe in God because I don't have any reason to believe in God.
Okay, is that your principled criterion?
Sure.
Okay, so, and now would you agree that God would be defined as the ultimacy of reality were he to exist?
I have no idea.
So if God is the creator and sustainer of all things, he would be defined as the ultimacy of existence. Since you lack belief in God, there must be something else that exists that provides for your capacity to think and reason. Since you lack belief in God, what is it that ultimately exists that provides for your reason?
We all have base axioms that we all assume.
How do you know that? How do you know that we all start from unjustified axioms?
I never said they were unjustified. I said we all
Okay,
have
that's what an axiom is.
Like,
Is
if you
an
want to
axiom
ask me,
justified?
how do I know I exist? I don't fucking know how I exist.
Is an axiom justified, sir? How do you know universally that everybody starts from axioms as opposed that are okay? Okay. Now, in the Christian worldview, we start. Okay, listen. Do you want to have a conversation, or you just want to talk over me like a punk?
Go ahead.
What's it going to be? Okay. Now, you made a universal global declaration that we all start from axioms. Now, is that a de facto denial that we do not start from God-ordained mental states?
I don't know.
Okay, so then if you don't know, then you don't know that we all start from axioms, do you?
I mean, you can regress me and put me in an infinite
Do you
regress.
do you know that we all start from axioms?
I do. I don't. I mean, I think we do, but maybe not.
Oh, okay, so now you're changing your tune. You just told me we did. Now you say you don't know. Which is it?
Well, we can't really truly know anything, can we?
Oh, okay, good. You just contradicted yourself. Do you know that?
Sure.
Oh, do you know that? You
What
just
if I
said we
said
can't
this?
truly know anything. When you said we can't truly know anything, is that a knowledge claim? Is that a knowledge claim?
Sure.
Good, but you said we don't really know anything.
Yeah. No matter where.
Good,
we
you,
go,
good, you,
it can go
yeah,
to
you
infinite
contradicted
regress.
yourself, sir.
You can infinite regress to literally anything.
Okay, sir, do you realize you
Doesn't matter if
contradicted
it's
yourself?
Logic doesn't
Do you?
matter.
Okay, are we going to have a conversation here, or are you going to ignore me? I have not ignored any of your questions, sir, but you are ignoring me. If you wish to ignore me, I'll move on to somebody else. What's it going to be? Are you going to ignore me? Okay, last chance, sir. If you're going to ignore me and talk over me like a punk, the conversation is over.
All right, I'm just going to
Now-
butt in. Agnak, do you
right,
want
thank
to
you.
answer the line of questioning he's asking you right now, or do you want to just do last words and move on to the next person?
Give honest answers.
Wait, Agnak, just to answer me here, do you want to answer the question he's asking right now, or do you want to just do last words and say whatever and then go on to the next person?
What was the question he was asking? I was kind of yelling over him a little bit too. Repeat it, Darth.
My question is, how do you know that we all start from axioms? How do you know this? Oh, no, that wasn't the question. The question had to do with your assertion that we truly don't know anything. And I asked you, is that a knowledge statement? You said yes. And I said, do you realize you've contradicted yourself?
Well, we can know things after we set our axioms. Like,
No, you just told me we truly can't know anything. So
yeah,
now
you
you're
can't
contradicting
deduce
yourself
anything
again.
outside of our epistemology.
Well, you just contradicted yourself again. Which contradiction do you want to go with? First you say we can't truly know anything, then you say we can, then you say we can't. Which is it?
Well, you're kind of twisting me there.
I didn't twist you anything. I'm simply quoting you.
We can't make a deduction outside of our epistemology. If we want to make a deduction, it's going to have to be with some axioms. And
how do you know that?
They're going to have to be
okay, so how do you know that some of our most fundamental mental states are not God ordained? Do you know that they aren't?
What you kind of the last part? How do I know?
I said when you say we all start from fundamental axioms, that's a de facto denial that some of our fundamental mental states are God ordained. Are some of our fundamental mental states God ordained, sir, or not?
God would be an axiom too.
No, I didn't ask you that question. I said, see, this is the problem. I keep asking you very simple and circumspect questions, and you keep on coming back being evasive and not answering the question. I said, has God given us fundamental mental states? Yes or no?
I don't know. You have yet to establish.
Okay, then if you don't know, then you don't know that everyone starts from axioms. Because in the case that God gave us fundamental mental states, then we would not all start with axioms. How do you know that?
The point.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Because we don't have a problem or an answer.
Wait a minute. You just told me we truly don't know anything. Now you're telling me what I don't know? How do you know that if you don't know anything?
Because you don't have an answer to the problem of skepticism.
How do you know I don't?
Okay,
How do you know I don't?
Give me an answer, and I'll reduce.
How do you know?
Right now.
How do you know? How do you know?
Arguments right now. I will reduce.
Okay, all right, we're done. We're gonna move on because all he wants to do is crosstalk. I have answered every single one of his questions, and all he wants to do is be argumentative. So we're done, sir. Next.
Okay,
Unless-
so 1 sec. All right, so I'm gonna give Agnak a last word, then Darth, you being the guest, can have the last word, and then we'll move on. So Agnak, what do you want to say?
I just want to say that Presup is absolute bullshit. It's basically a double-edged sword. If he wants to attack your axioms, then go after his. The same criticisms that he criticizes atheists of, the Christian worldview is also able to be criticized of. It's just bullshit. It's dishonest and it's disingenuous. Fuck it.
All right, Darth, you can have the last word on that, and then we'll pass it to whoever.
Yeah, this is shocking that he says the Presup is bullshit coming from somebody who just openly declared 3 times we truly don't know anything. If he actually believes his own words that we truly don't know anything, then he doesn't know what is BS and what is not BS. So he has again contradicted himself. Next.
All right, Asmund, do you want to go, or is it Destiny?
Yeah, I can go, I guess.
All right, you go, then Destiny, then the child sex guy or whatever, pedo rescue driver can go third.
I want to jump in too.
Yeah. So
Carlos,
how are
can
you
you-
so sure? Hello. How are you so sure that like the religion is like the true thing? I guess.
Why? Because God has objectively and accurately revealed it in natural and special revelation, and the denial of which leads to complete absurdity.
But how? I mean, there is no science behind that, is it? Like, it's just you're basing your
Sir, I'm not an empiricist, are you? Do you know what
Well, no.
empiricism is? Empiricism is the position that the only way to know things is through sense perception. Is that your position about science?
Well, I don't really know. Not sure about that.
Well, if you don't know, then why are you invoking science? Is science the only way? Is science the only way to know things, sir?
No. I mean, you can't be sure that anything is 100% right.
You know, you're not answering my question. You're dodging my question. Is science the only way to know things?
Not necessarily, maybe. No.
Okay, good. Well, my position is that the only reason why we can and do know things are through God's revelatory acts, both in natural and special revelation. If you do not accept God's revelation, then you're going to need to tell me. You're over talking me, sir.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll be done momentarily. If you reject the revelation of God, that God's revelation, both in natural and special revelation, are needed in order to know some things that we cannot be wrong about. If you deny that, then you're going to have to step up to the plate and you're going to have to tell me what is your means of knowing things. And I'm defining knowing as a justified true belief. So do you have a method of knowing something that's a justified true belief?
Well, my position is that you can't really know anything like 100%.
Okay, that's a contradiction, sir, because you just made a knowledge statement.
Okay.
You just contradicted yourself like Agnak. If you say you can't know anything, that's a knowledge statement.
You can't know
that's
anything
a contradiction.
With 100%
That's a contradiction. That's well, first of all, we're not defining. Asmund, we're not defining knowledge by percentages of psychological confidence that a belief may be true. I'm using the word knowledge as it is commonly used, although some parties may object to it, but it's commonly used that knowledge is a belief that's true that has a justificatory path, justified true belief. Okay, I'm not interested in talking about psychological confidence or percentage. Either you know something or you don't know it. Okay? Now, what is your basis, since you reject the revelation of the Christian God as the basis? Well, either you accept it or you don't.
No, I don't like. I'm not gonna say I'm going to reject that God exists. I'm just saying that we don't know. That's the thing. Like, how can you be
I didn't
sure
say
that?
I didn't say a generic God. I said the revelation of the Christian God. Do you accept the revelation of the Christian God?
No, I don't accept that because I'm not sure. Like, there's
okay,
no
good.
proof
Then what's your basis to know anything, sir?
Well, Well, I base my knowledge on science, I guess, and facts and logical thinking, I guess.
Okay. Can you justify science? Does
Well,
science
that's a hard
require
one again.
does
Yeah.
science require causality and the uniformity of nature? The answer is yes. Can you justify those?
I don't really understand that question, to be honest.
Well, if you're going to tell me that science is a means to know some things as opposed to all things, then you must be able to defend the pillars of science, because in the absence of you justifying the pillars of science, there's no science to be spoken of. One of those pillars is the causal principle, or that there are causal connections between events. Without that being the case, then science is meaningless. Do you have a non-question begging justification for causality?
I think you're like rambling all over the place, so it's so
No,
hard
I'm
to
not
like follow
rambling.
up.
No,
It's so
I'm not
hard to
rambling.
follow. Listen.
Well,
It's so hard to
well,
follow
then you
up
shouldn't
what
join
you're
into a
saying.
debate, sir, if you can't understand what I just said.
Well, I mean, if you do it more basic, I mean, I
Can
just
you
don't
justify
understand again how you.
Okay, do you understand the concept of causality? Can you
No,
justify
can I
causality?
explain that? I'm Norwegian, so I don't understand all the English words, but I'm trying. Okay.
Okay, can you justify causality?
Can you explain causality to me?
Yeah, that for each event there is a cause.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Can you justify that there are causal connections between events? Because in the absence of doing so, you're not going to be able to invoke science as a viable option.
I see. I understand. Well, the thing is that I don't really understand how you base how are you so sure that the religion that you follow is true? It's based on a Bible that's written thousands of years ago.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Number one, the Bible is self-authenticating and self-attesting. I have simply accepted that self-authenticating revelation. Now, if you don't accept that, if you're not persuaded by it, then the only other proof that you're going to get is that the proof of the God of the Bible and the Bible itself is that without it, you cannot prove anything. Okay? It would be like denying the reality of the external physical world. If you deny the reality of the external physical world, your world doesn't mean anything. If you deny the laws of logic, if you so much don't accept the laws of logic, your world will become absurdity. If you deny the God of the Bible, that the God of the Bible and his revelatory acts are the ultimacy of reality that provides for everything, including your logic, your reasoning, your thinking, okay, inferences. If you deny that, then I'm not going to grant you any brute facts that you need to reason. So I'm going to ask you to account for those brute facts, since you asked me to account for the Bible. And since you reject the Bible, you're going to have to account for brute facts.
Bible. I'm saying that I'm not rejecting it. I'm just saying that how are you so sure that that's the case?
Why? Because the denial of it leads to absurdity, sir.
How's that?
Well, in order to have a meaningful and intelligible statement or stipulation, it requires not only immediate context, but the grand context of reality. If you do not know what the grand context of reality is, then you cannot offer an intelligible statement metaphysically. It'll be intelligible semantically, but you won't be able to make sense of that stipulation in reference to where it ultimately comes from and depends upon. So if you say, I don't know what the ultimate nature of reality is, then if you so much as say the sky is blue, that's meaningless gibberish, because you need the ultimate nature of reality to talk about light, okay, about causality, about laws of nature, okay? So the reason why I know the Bible is true is because the denial of the Bible is to embrace autonomous reasoning, and autonomous reasoning leads to absurdity.
Okay, so you talk so much that it's just hard to follow up. I think just Carlos can go on, and I don't really. The thing is that the problem is that I can't follow up with you. Like the things you say, it's so much. It's like hard to take in. It's
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Thank you for the conversation.
I don't feel like you put any proof out. There is no like I don't get you.
Sir, your worldview. Wait a minute. Here's the problem. You just invoked the concept of proof, right? Does proof require evidence?
Yes, I guess.
Okay. Does evidence require causality?
Yes, I guess.
Good. So in your worldview, can you account for causal connections so that proof is a viable concept?
Fucking hell.
Well, you just said you can't prove it, which is you're presupposing that is proof a viable concept, sir.
Yes,
Okay, proof requires evidence.
No.
Evidence requires causal connections. Is proof a viable concept in your model of reality?
Yes, I would base my facts on.
Okay, good. So proof is
guess.
viable. Now, is proof?
Yeah.
Would proof be viable in your worldview if you couldn't account for causality?
I guess. Yeah. Sure.
No, sir. Proof requires evidence. Evidence requires causal connections. In the absence of justifying causality, you have no basis to invoke that there's proof.
Well, I'm not saying that anything is wrong or right. I'm just saying, how are you so sure that the Bible is
Well,
wrong?
I explained
that's
to
the
you.
thing, I guess. Yeah.
I explained
but
to you.
your explanation doesn't really make any sense to me. That's the problem.
Sir, can your worldview make sense of anything? When you deny the revelation of the Christian God, can you make sense out of your world, sir?
What do you mean it makes sense? Like
you just said the Christian worldview doesn't make sense.
No, I didn't
say. Does your worldview make sense?
It does. Yeah. Religion doesn't really make sense to me.
Does your worldview make sense? Okay, good. Then can you tell me what is the ultimate nature of reality by which you can make sense out of any singular statement? What's the ultimate nature of reality?
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Okay, well then we'll move on then.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I mean, but I don't really understand.
Asmund, why don't you have a last word? Darth can have a last word, and then we'll go to Destiny.
Yeah. So the thing here is that I feel like it's weird that you base your like proof or basis based on a book and all that, I guess, and I feel like it's just rubbish, I guess. I'm not saying that anything is right or wrong because you can't be sure of anything, but
well, if you call it rubbish, it's wrong then.
Yeah, well, I mean, not necessarily wrong, but it feels like there's no science behind it. So I would say that
you just contradicted yourself. You have no basis for science.
Okay, so Asmund, do you want to get a last word in there, and then Darth has the last word, or is there anything else you want to say, Asmund?
Nah, I'm fine, dude.
Okay, Darth, you want a last word before we go on?
He's a walking contradiction. He doesn't understand the nature and foundation of science. He wants to invoke science freely and proof and evidence freely, yet he cannot account for the presuppositions of those things. He then says the Christian worldview is rubbish, and then he immediately says, "I'm not saying it's false." Well,
not
if you say
necessarily.
Sir,
his last word.
Listen, you're a walking contradiction, and there's nothing else need to be said. When you contradict yourself, you're over. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so let's move on then. Destiny, you want to go?
Yeah.
Can I? Oh, fuck.
Hey,
all right, put out your go for it.
All right,
cool.
I just have a question. Can you tell me how you perceive the revelation of God?
What do you mean by perceive? You mean with my eyes?
Sure. Which sense do you use to perceive the revelation of God?
I use my eyes, and I can use my hearing if somebody's reading the Word of God.
Can you tell me how you can trust your eyes or your hearing, Darth?
Yeah, because God has revealed in natural and special revelation that I have basically reliable sense perception. He has ordained that I don't question the basic reliability of my sense perception.
Okay, when I ask a question, can you just give me one answer? Please don't continue to talk on. So you told me things that God does.
I'll give you the answer. I will give you the answer.
Can somebody mute this guy while
hey guys, okay, so let's just
I'm limited to one sentence.
yeah, Darth,
That's not how the game is going to be played.
wait, Darth, that's okay. We've given you a lot of time to talk, but we are gonna still keep taking turns. He can ask his question, you can answer, he can ask, we'll go back and forth. So put your question.
Oh, that's fine with me.
Sure. So when I ask a question of how can you trust your senses, you can't give me descriptive statements of God. I'm asking you how you perceive those statements of God. Don't tell me what God says. I want to know how you hear what he says.
I don't hear what God says in terms of God audibly speaking to me. God has given his revelation in natural revelation, which is everything that he has created is evidence of him. And he has given special revelation ultimately in and through the Bible. And when that is read, the revelation is received.
Okay, so the first part of your answer, you avoided answering my question. And then the second part of the answer, you answered my question with something that you just said you didn't said. So in the first part, you said, God has given his revelation. I'm not asking if God has given his revelation. I don't know why you keep saying that. In the second part, you said that you read his revelation. So you telling me then that you trust your eyes in order to understand or perceive God?
I don't choose to trust my senses. God has ordained that I do it automatically.
Okay, I'm sorry. You've done this a third time. Please stop telling me what God does. I'm asking you how you can perceive what God does.
How
Yes.
I do it? I perceive it by how he has ordained my eyesight.
So you trust your senses, your eyes, in order to perceive God.
No, it's not an optional thing. God has made me to automatically think that way.
Okay, you've done this a fourth time. You keep telling me what God does. I'm not asking you what God does. I'm asking you how you perceive what God does. Because earlier you've told other people that you're not allowed to use your senses to observe causality, and now you're saying you can use your senses to observe God. I don't understand why you're allowed to do this and you don't allow others to do the same. Sir, please do not interrupt me when I finish my sentence, sir. Please do not interrupt me when I'm finishing my sentence, okay? You may speak now.
Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything you just said. Can you repeat that?
Is that going to be a running commentary or is there going to be a question?
I will continue to ask you not to interrupt me. Yes. So what I'm asking you again, if you didn't hear it for the fifth time, I'm asking you, how can you don't tell me what God does. I want you to tell me how you can perceive what God does. So don't say that God has ordained you or God has done something. This sentence should start with, I can perceive God using this sense. Or how can you perceive what God says?
Just to be fair to Darth, you did actually cut out on that last one, Destiny. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I can sit there and open up the Bible and read God's revelation.
So you do trust your eyes then?
When I look out at the sun, the moon, and the stars, the heavens declare the glory of God, and I see his handiwork. It's
okay,
just
cool.
self-evident.
Well, I see logic and I see the laws of identity and causality. It's self-evident to me as well.
Okay. How do you see a universal absolute abstract?
With my eyes, the same way you do.
Okay. Well, first of all, you only see a part, not the whole. Is that correct?
No, I see the whole.
Okay. You see all entities?
As much as you do, yes.
No, that's an evasive answer. The law
No, it's not
of
an evasive answer, sir.
Okay. The law of non-contradiction states that for all entities represented by A, they cannot equal its denial. Okay. Now, A is a placeholder for all entities. Have you observed that all entities that do exist can never coexist or equal their negation?
As much as you can, yes.
No, that's not an answer, sir.
It was an answer. It's the answer
I didn't make the claim that I could make universal observations. Now, can you make universal observations?
As much as you can, yes.
Okay, that isn't a completely evasive and disingenuous question. Now, if you persist in that evasiveness, I will move on to somebody else. Now, I did not claim that I make universal observations. My observations are less than universal. Do you have universal observations of all entities?
Okay, I'm going to answer no to this, and I'm going to ask you again. How can you perceive God, who you claim is a universal entity?
I didn't say, well, first of all, I didn't claim that God was a universal entity. Did you hear me claim that?
I heard you say that God is the absolute universal truth of which you build your foundation.
No,
on.
I
Is that
didn't. I
different?
didn't say God was a universal entity. Did you hear me say that?
I believe I did, or something similar to it.
No, I didn't. You're a very poor listener.
Oh,
Now,
I'm sorry.
so are we clear then that you cannot make universal observations?
As much as you can. You still never answered how
Okay,
you perceive God's
okay,
truth.
listen to me. I'll give you one more chance. If you gave me the same slimy answer, I will move on to somebody else. I've dealt with you before, and I know your dishonest tactics. Now, can you make universal observations of all entities?
As much as you can, Darth.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next
Sure.
person.
Hey, Isaac, real quick, can you get him to answer how he perceives God without actually
We're done. Omni,
doing
we're
some kind
done.
of circular thing?
Bye-bye.
I'm just curious, but yeah, I'll mute. Good luck, guys.
No,
Bye-bye.
I have to be fair. I do not think Destiny is being disingenuous there. If you want to disengage from him,
I respectfully and completely disagree with you. I have debated with him on 3 other occasions, and this is his MO. Okay. Now, sir, I asked him, Destiny, can you make universal observations of all entities? And he said, as much as you can. I didn't claim to make observation of universal entities. Either Destiny makes universal observations of all entities, or he does not. Now, did you hear him answer that he did make universal observations, or he cannot make universal observations of all entities? Did you hear an answer to that, sir?
his answer that I heard was to the degree that you can.
But the point is, I'm not making a claim to universal observations. So that was a slippery, slimy response to evade the question, and he did it 5 times, and he did it in the previous conversations. If he's going to be disingenuous and evasive in that manner, there is no point to carry on the conversation. I am glad to debate anybody who vigorously and vehemently opposes me, but the moment people start to get slippery, slimy, and evasive, then the conversation's over.
Okay.
I don't
now
appreciate you
we'll-
slandering me without me being able to respond. Can you
Yeah,
please
well,
stop referring?
Bye-bye, Destiny. We're done,
guys,
bud.
wait one sec. Well, sorry, Darth. To be fair, we're gonna do for Destiny what we did for everyone, and give him a last word, give you a last word.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, but I was just gonna say though. Now I'm gonna propose this. You don't have to say yes to it. I think that the appropriate course to go down from here would be for you guys to clear up what exactly you're talking about with universal observations, what exactly is meant there, whether you're doing it, whether he's doing it, what that looks like. Do you think that's acceptable?
He was already given that opportunity, and he refused 5 times, so we're done.
Okay,
yeah,
Destiny,
so I'll
you
get my
can-
last word, and then you
yeah,
give
take your time, totally.
Sure. So what Darth does is Darth is known as a presuppositionalist. What Darth will do is he will question how you can possibly justify your basic beliefs or your fundamental axioms that you build truth off of. Now, as humans, you literally cannot do this. It is impossible. Now, since you're not able to do that, and all of humanity recognizes that we can't do that, Darth will go ahead and make a fallacious claim that every single knowledge claim that you base off of an axiom is necessarily invalidated because the axiom itself is not justified, which is hilariously stupid because axioms are, by definition, unjustified. While he does that, he will pretend that he has justified his own worldview. Now, he will never let you appeal to any sort of circular logic or whatever, but as I've demonstrated, he will appeal to circular logic when he justifies his own properly basic beliefs. For instance, when I ask him, how do you perceive God? He says, I don't use my senses. And then I say, well, tell me how you perceive it. And then he'll say, God does this thing. And then I'll ask for a third time, how do you perceive it? And he says, well, I perceive the things God does by reading Revelations, which is his senses. You'll find out that he is just as circular as you are, and you're really both in the same boat. And this whole argument of epistemology is totally and completely wasted on him because he's being circular while pretending he's not, and then asking you to justify things that no human ever can justify. That's Darth's shtick, in case you didn't know about it.
You want the last word there, Darth?
Okay, yeah. When I debated Destiny the last time, I asked him why he had a lack of belief in God. I said, do you lack belief in God because God is not rationally justified? And he says, that's correct. I said, do you require a rational justification for belief in God as the ultimate? And he said, yes. And I said, since you lack belief in God, then something else must exist that is ultimate or the absolute that provides for the foundation of everything, including his reason. I said, do you violate your own principle, or do you have a rational justification for that which is ultimate? He answered in the affirmative. He said he did have a rational justification for that which is ultimate. And I said, is the ultimate matter, energy, causality, and laws of nature? And he said, absolutely yes. I said, what is your rational justification? Destiny then doubled and tripled down, saying that he could observe through his sense perception, causality, and laws of nature. When I explained to him that he was begging the question, he was presupposing causality inherent in sense perception, such as eyesight, which is a set of causal connections. He was begging the question. He wasn't appealing to epistemic circularity, but non-epistemic circularity.
Okay.
Then he realized, I'm not done yet. He then realized, I'll wrap it up. He then realized he could not justify his ultimacy without being circular. So then he flipped and said, well, we all have to start with axioms. He said, all humans cannot do that. He doesn't know that what all humans can or cannot do. He does not have universal observation. He does not have universal knowledge about the actual state of human reasoning. He is simply conjecturing about the ultimate nature of human capacity and epistemology, and he's simply asserting it as an absolute without actually having justified. And I'm done.
Okay, now it sounded, I'm just going to propose this. You can of course say no. It sounded like it got fairly respectful there. That was probably the most fruitful conversation so far, was you two. Do you want to try to keep going, or is that it? You're done with Destiny?
No, I'm done. I gave him 5 chances to give me an honest answer, and he refused to do so.
Okay, well, you're both in this server, so maybe there'll be a round 3 one day. Okay, who wants to go now?
Well, if he can muster some intellectual honesty, maybe so.
Excuse me, please don't shit talk me while I am past my turn. You had your last word. There's no need for ad homs. Thank you.
I think that is fair. Let's not shit talk when the turns are over. Okay, so
that wasn't an ad hom. That was a commentary.
Okay. Either way. So I shouldn't have asked who's next because we actually do have a queue. Does the pedo rescue guy want to go right now, or has he?
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, I'm here.
Go for it.
So just a few questions. Do you believe that your God is a good God, all-knowing, all-powerful, all-seeing?
I'll give that a yes.
Okay, so your God allows for a universe where children are born, experience starvation and die and have no experience of good?
The God of the Bible in his original creation. And before I answer that, have you read the Bible?
Yeah, I've read a bit of the Bible. Yeah, it's a bit boring.
Okay, well, as you well know, the God of the Bible originally created everything good. Death and suffering are a temporal judgment because of man's rebellion.
Yep. So you believe everything that happens is objectively morally good?
I'm not understanding the question.
I think it's a pretty simple question. You believe in objective morality due to the Bible?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
there is
so
objective. There is objective. No, I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. I said I believe. But listen, you can let me answer.
Go ahead.
You asked me, do I believe in objective morality? The answer is yes.
Okay, so everything that happens is objective morally good because God allows.
No, I did not say that, sir.
So is God all-powerful?
Please do not put words in my mouth.
I didn't say that. I said, okay, is God all-powerful?
Yes.
The things that God does and allows to happen is good.
Yes.
So allowing children to starve to death is objectively morally good because God allows it.
Yeah, God's temporal judgment, where there is suffering and death, is an aspect of his righteousness and justice. Therefore, it is good.
Cool. I'm just going to go through the entire list. So children being raped is objectively morally good.
No. God permits human beings to have the capacity to have agency. Some human beings exercise their agency in opposition to God's commands and God's character.
God is all-powerful and he can intercept or allow whatever to happen, correct?
Yes.
So he created a universe where children can be raped, correct?
God created a universe where people can sin.
Yeah, okay. So God allows for a universe, or created a universe where children can be raped. And because what God
Yeah,
has
and
created,
he created a
that is
universe.
objectively good.
He created a universe where some people can mistreat children and adults.
Yep. So
But
God has created a universe.
that's right.
Sorry, just 1 second.
It's temporary.
Yeah. So even though it's temporary, children are being raped, and God created a universe where children can be raped.
Okay, is there something wrong? Is there something wrong with rape in your worldview?
Within my subjective worldview, yeah, absolutely. Is it not wrong in your worldview?
Well, rape would be objectively wrong because it's inconsistent with the character of God. But when you say subjective, when you said did you mean your subjective morals or your subjective worldview?
So I believe morality is subjective. So I disagree.
Didn't I hear you say your subjective worldview?
I think I said subjective morality.
Okay. Are all
let me just give me a second. I am going somewhere with this. I am going somewhere. So God is all powerful, yep. And everything he does and everything he has created is objectively good, and allows for is objectively good, yep.
On the seventh day after God got done created, he declared everything was good on the seventh day.
That's not what I said. I said everything that he allows for in the world to happen, and effectively the universe that he creates, and because he's omnipotent and omniscient and able to see everything, he's created a universe where everything that happens is objectively good.
No, not everything that happens is objectively good. Sometimes angels and human beings exercise the agency that God has given them in opposition to God's character and will.
So you're contradicting yourself, okay? So either earlier you said that God created a universe where everything is good, okay, and that he is omnipotent, and anything that he allows for and within the universe that he created is objectively good. Yes.
Where's my contradiction?
Well, you just said earlier everything that happens within the universe, because God is all powerful and all seeing and all knowing, it is therefore objectively good. And now you've said not everything that happens in the universe is objectively good.
You're not representing accurately what I said. Now, where's my contradiction?
No, I think I have. I think I have accurately represented. Do you want to?
No, you haven't. Would you please like to cite my contradiction?
So you said it. I think I've said it earlier, and I'm pretty sure everyone in this Discord knows what I've just said. So I don't really see how this is difficult.
I'm still waiting for you to cite my contradiction.
Do you want me to repeat what I've said?
No, because what you said was not clear.
Okay, I'll start again. Is the world that God created? Okay, so God is. Let's just start from the basics. So God is omnipotent. Yes.
Yes.
God is all-seeing. Yes.
Yes.
God is a good God. Yes.
Yes.
God created a universe where everything that he allows to happen is therefore more or less good, or he perceives it to be allowable.
No, on the seventh day when God got done creating, he declared everything that was good on the seventh day.
Okay, but God can intercept in the universe, isn't he? Or is he not all powerful?
Yeah, God could stop somebody from sinning.
Okay, so why doesn't he stop children being raped?
Why? Because he has a plan for human history, for mankind to rebel and see the consequences of mankind's rebellion. You could ask the question, why doesn't he stop adults? I'd like to ask you a very simple question. Why is it that you only reference children and not adults being raped? Would it make you feel better if only adults got raped?
Well, if you might notice from my name, I'm actually just interested in children being raped, but no, that's a joke. All of that is bad.
Yeah,
but Stop. I'm answering your question. Yep.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm only saying that because this is a recorded conversation. Okay. So I want everyone to see that you think that God created a world where children being raped. I feel like that's something that most people would be able to understand. God created a world where children being raped.
You're not representing what I'm saying accurately. You have very poor listening skills, and you are not accurately representing my position, sir.
I think I asked you really simple questions. Yep, and
No,
I've
sir,
allowed for you to speak.
you have poor listening skills, and you did not accurately represent my position.
Literally everyone in this Discord can understand that you
Yeah.
believe that there is an all-powerful God who has allowed for a creation of a universe where children can be raped, where people starve to death, where bone cancer exists, and you believe, by extension, that that is objectively morally good.
It is just and righteous for God to create agents where there are consequences from God as a temporal judgment, such as death and suffering. And it is a loving God creates free moral agents and doesn't create robots. If God created you and everyone else without the capacity to sin, then you would not be an agent, you would be a robot. With the capacity to be an agent, you can choose to do good or bad. You can choose to love a child or to rape a child. God allows man to commit sins in the course of human history, but he has a plan that to reach the best possible world in eternity, we must go through this world where mankind makes a choice to sin or not sin. And since mankind chooses to sin, God has offered salvation so that in the next world, after we all die, we can all be free from sin and suffering.
So I just want you to say God has created a world where he thinks children being raped is justified.
I didn't say that.
Well, that's a roundabout
God
way.
has created
Has he created that world or not?
Okay, God has created a world where he has created free agents who have the capacity to harm one another temporarily in the course of human history, so that those who are sinners, who repent, can live free from death and suffering and harm and sinning in eternity. Would you like to join that future world, sir?
Yeah, so stop avoiding the question. It's a
No,
pretty simple question.
I answered your question.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
Please don't overtalk me. Please do not overtalk me, sir, or the conversation will be over.
Okay, guys,
I answered your question.
Yo, Darth,
Okay?
it's ask yourself right now. To be fair, I think that he was the one asking the line of questioning there. So let's let him.
Right, and I answered every single one of his questions, and I have hardly had a chance to ask him any questions.
Okay, well, I think we've been very, very fair to you in here, Darth. Let's let him put his question to you, and you can.
I'm not complaining about being fair.
Oh, okay.
But
Fair,
I hardly had a chance to ask him questions.
Okay, well, you certainly will get one, but just because we did the same thing for you, where we allowed you to persist with your lines of reasoning, we're going to do the same. Yeah. Okay.
That's fine.
So go put your line of reasoning to him. Try not to, belittle him though. That's what caused him to cut in on you. So just say whatever you're going to say.
It's a little bit hard to not belittle it.
So would you like to join the future world where it will be free from death and suffering that you so much hate? Because God offers that future world where there will not be any child rape or bone cancer, and everyone who turns to God in human history will be saved from their sins and will ultimately and eternally be free from death, suffering, bone cancer, and child rape. Would you like to join that future world, sir?
Absolutely, I'd love to join it. The question then becomes, why doesn't he do it now, though?
Why? Because God's time frame for his plan of history is in the palm of his hand. It's not in your palm. The fact that you think that God should execute his plan of human history on a different time scale than his is not your prerogative to question.
Okay,
Are you wiser than God? Now, since you said you wanted to join that future world, are you ready to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior so you can escape eternal damnation and go into a world where you're free of child rape and bone cancer? Would you like to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior?
Yeah, here's the thing, is I'm not saying that I
asked you a question. Would you like to do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to believe that more than, say, the spaghetti grand.
Would you like to accept Jesus as your Savior?
That's just your sales pitch, man. That you've got no reason
No,
to believe
that,
that.
no,
Just
that,
stop.
that's
No,
a,
no, stop.
that's,
You haven't
no, I'm
answered
not going to
you
stop.
haven't
I
answered my
asked you a
first
question. Okay, we're done. We're
Oh,
done,
we're
sir.
done.
If you're
We're
going,
done, sir.
if we're going to, if
Sir,
we're going
sir,
to,
sir, sir.
Guys.
all right.
So,
Okay, I'm going to turn your microphone down. Once you start getting obnoxious, then conversation's over.
all right. So, well, I think that we should still. Do you have any final questions that either of you want to ask each other? Or do you want to just do last words and go to the next person?
Well, I did ask him a question. The question was, would you like to accept Jesus as your savior so that you can be free from child rape and bone cancer in the future?
Yep. And Darth, I took his answer to be more or less, yes, I would, but I'm not convinced that's the reality of the situation. Is that?
I didn't hear him say that.
No, I know he didn't say that word for it. I think that's what he's trying to say. But
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah,
okay.
That's correct.
Okay, good. Then I'm done.
Can I? You go ahead. Ask yourself.
Are you okay with him putting another question to you, or are you saying you want another person?
Well, when I do try to answer questions, he repeatedly cuts me off and overtalks me.
Okay, well, if he does not do that, do you want to hear him?
I think it would be. He's been given plenty of time. I think it's best to move on to somebody else.
All right, we'll give him a last word, and we'll give you a last word.
Okay.
Cool. I'm good to go ahead.
Well, yeah, but it's not a line of questioning. It's like a final statement.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So I guess my final part would be, he objectively believes in a world where God has a all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing, good God has objectively created an objective morality where children being raped and everything that you know to be or you think to be bad in this world can exist. Somehow he thinks, so basically, that it's objectively morally good for children to be raped. That's essentially me into this everlasting, fantastic world that is trying to sell. I don't really care. That's an insane world. That's an insane God. And if the God had any sense, any more than what I should have, he should just create the good world now. Okay? And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Go ahead, Darth.
Okay. Again, he misrepresented me for at least the 5th time, saying that God created a world where child rape is objectively good. I never said anything of the kind. Nothing I said could have been construed that way. He tried to put words in my mouth. He attempted to force me to convey that, which shows the absolute dishonesty and disingenuousness on his part. He also said that that world that I believe in is insane. However, he didn't offer what his model of reality is and his theory of knowledge by which he could determine that any other model of reality was not actual or true. He just simply declared that it was insane because he accepts without ultimate justification what his ultimate model of nature is. Okay, it's that simple.
All right. Okay, so Carlos, it's you, and then it's I was fucking, and if there's anyone else who wants to be next in the queue, you can.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. The guy's gonna have to change his name if he's gonna. I'm not gonna talk with somebody with a name like that.
Okay, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah.
Carlos, you want to go?
Can I go after these people, by the way?
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah, one sec. Who was that who just asked?
This is Young Squad Leg, aka Clay.
Yep, you can go after those two, and we'll figure out what we're doing with I was fucking. Okay, Carlos, go ahead.
I don't care what you change.
Okay, well, here's the thing, man. I go last because I'm the final boss of the server. I have a very important story to tell Mr. Darth here, so I have to go last. All these people have to go before me, man.
Okay, all right, so I was fucking. Have you changed your name to something Darth is going to accept here?
As far as I know, I don't have the role to change my name on the server.
Okay, I'm eating a friggin' burger right now. A vegan burger. Can one of the mods just change his name to
Okay.
And someone tell me when that's done?
You give us the commentary on that burger.
Change my name to a good Christian boy.
Yeah, Isaac, I'm here. People want me to go.
All right. Well, Insup, I'm sorry, you have gone a bit behind in the queue now, so you can go after this guy in Squad Leg. So, yeah, what's your name now? Good Christian Boy?
Yep.
Okay, Good Christian Boy, go ahead and put whatever you want to put to Darth.
Okay, Darth. As far as I know, I'm probably gonna be the only
His
person.
name isn't changed.
Are you sure it's not your Discord lagging?
All right, let me reboot.
Sure.
While he's rebooting, listen, Insop, you go before me, man. We gotta stop.
I'm not looking at it right now, but like if it's not changed,
Okay,
he's gonna be stuck.
Okay, it's changed. Go ahead, Good.
Okay, has that fixed my name?
Yes, it is.
You're good to go.
Excellent. Okay, so Darth, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in the server so far that you're going to have talked to that isn't an atheist. Isn't that surprising?
No.
Okay then. Well, I would like to relate to you the evangelical message of Lord Azathoth, the blind idiot god who lives outside the universe. Would you like to hear his message?
Sure, go ahead.
As revealed to me through special revelation by his son, the Black Pharaoh Nyarlathotep, he has told me that this world, in fact, has no meaning aside from his own existence.
Is that it?
Well, I mean, are you going to argue the position? Can you prove he doesn't exist?
Did he reveal anything else?
No, he only revealed his existence, and that's it.
Okay, so Lord Azathoth lives outside the universe.
He is prior to the universe, epistemologically, yes.
Okay.
His origin is outside reality.
And that's the only revelation that you received?
Well, I mean, his existence functions as a sort of like a platonic prime mover. Yeah.
Is that the sum total of the revelation?
I mean, you can extrapolate from the sum total of the revelation as
No,
listed
it's
in
not.
the Necronomicon.
It's not incumbent upon me to provide that. Is that the sum total of the revelation?
I did not mean you by you. I meant that sort of in the general sense.
Yeah.
One can, by the fact that he's related his message in the Necronomicon, which is itself self-affirming, written through special revelation by the mad Arab Al-Hazred of his existence, and of course of other principles pertaining to his existence, like his lineage, the basic laws of physics, the eldritch horrors that prey upon us all. The special revelation is relatively similar to a biblical one, but a few key characters are different.
Has this been revealed to the bulk of humanity?
Does a special revelation from
Darth
the prime mover of the entire universe, the god of all gods, need to be known by more than even one? In fact, I would argue
That's
that
not like, sir, listen to me. Okay. I asked you to answer the question, you're not answering it. If you want to do shtick with somebody else, okay? Next.
Hey, you can't.
That's a legitimate.
Sir.
I'll have you know, that is a legitimate religion, actually. You know.
Okay, I want to come in for just a sec. So he obviously is doing a shtick, but the point of what he's trying to do is he's trying to use your same argument and show that maybe it could justify anything or any other god. So wait, just one second, Darth, one second. So you said you wanted to end, so I'm just giving some legitimacy to it. Do you want to keep going with him, or do you want the next person?
Yeah, this is when somebody it just makes up stuff on the spot, right? There's no point in conversing with them, because I'm only interested in talking with people who are telling me what their sincerely held beliefs are and the actual models of reality. Now, I've encountered numerous skeptics who do this ploy, and then weeks, months later down on the road, they admit that they're lying. I've come across this ridiculous shtick before. It's not impressive, and it's something that I would expect from a 14-year-old.
Okay.
Next.
All right. Well, we're still gonna give him a last word about as a thought.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, so to break character real quick here, as Destiny related, his whole shtick is presup, and presup can be used to justify quite literally anything. And going back in character, the
I have a
fact that you would
question.
the fact that you do not
Well,
interrupt me,
wait.
sir.
1 sec. If you want to start questioning, then it's going to go back to
No,
about.
I just had a question. You said
wait, Darth,
character.
we got to be fair. If you want to start talking with him,
Okay.
do you want to reinitiate or
No,
do you
I
want
just
to
want
wait, no, Darth, come on. I'm going to
Okay.
do to you. Wait, I'm going to do to you what we're going to do to everybody. Do you want to reinitiate with him, or do you want to close it off?
Yeah, I'd like to know, what does he mean he's breaking character?
What? Say it again, please. You broke up.
You said you were breaking character and then giving a critique of my presuppositionalism. What do you mean you're breaking character?
The character as related to me to perform for you as by the great God, by the servant of the great God Azathoth, the mad Arab Al-Hazred, as related in the Necronomicon, the Black Book of Madness.
That didn't answer the question about breaking character.
Yes, I'm supposed to play a double character for both the atheists and for you, as commanded me by Azathoth through the special and basic revelation of Azathoth through the mad Arab Al-Hazred in the Black Book of Madness, the Necronomicon. Further, I have also received extra special revelation by the crawling chaos in Yarlathotep.
I'm sorry, who asked what he was saying? I can explain it to him.
Yeah. This is an example of the depravity of people when they realize that their skepticism leaves them in epistemic bankruptcy, that rather than bow the knee to Jesus Christ, they'll just make up stuff on the spot that everyone in the room, and including himself, know that it is shtick. I make it a policy that I'm only going to debate with people who are sincere players, not people who are doing these Saturday Night Live performers.
Can I just say one thing? Literally everything you're saying right now applies to yourself. It's fucking ridiculous that you
Well,
cannot
actually, that's a contradiction, because you see, when I invoke Christianity, given the fact that I'm not 2,000 years old, all right? Okay, Matt, I'm answering you. Given the fact, I'm going to falsify what you just said right now. You said there was an exact parallel. Unfortunately, everything he just said is not historically derived. He simply made it up on the spot. When I invoke Jesus Christ, when I invoke the Bible, you're over talking me, sir. When I invoke Jesus Christ, I could not have possibly invented Jesus Christ, because we have references to Jesus Christ historically dating back to the 1st century, and later historians recognize in bulk the historicity of Jesus Christ. So my invocation of Jesus Christ and the content of the New Testament is not something that was fabricated on the spot. Now, you may believe that my adoption and stipulation of the contents of the New Testament is not actual. But what you cannot affirm or believe is that I invented the concepts of the New Testament, because they historically predate me by 2,000 years. Whereas the material that he was giving, it's clear to you and everyone else that he just made that up. Now, I'm going to ask you one question before I move on.
The blind god Azathoth predates you by 12 billion years.
Okay, Ken, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. All right?
One sec. That was actually not Ken. That was not.
No. I know that was Mr. Schick up there. So, Ken, I want to ask you a question. I want to test your integrity. Now, Ken, I'm going to ask you a question. I have
to say this.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you. Okay, please stop over. Okay, Ken, if you're going to overtalk me, I don't want to. I'll have to ignore you.
It's ask yourself talking. Ken, do you want to re-engage, or are you wanting to not debate, Ken?
I just wanted to get that one simple point out.
Okay, so Darth, just make your point to him, and then let's finish.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question, Ken. I want to test your integrity. Okay, since you said that his proclamation and my proclamation.
He says he doesn't want to engage in a.
I didn't hear him say he wouldn't.
He said he just wanted to make a point to you. But you can make your point.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. All right, I'll make a point. Since he wants to act as a drive-by, which shows he doesn't have any intestinal fortitude. Okay, what Ken was doing, either Ken is fundamentally stupid in believing that there is an equivalence between the content that I'm saying, because the content of what I'm saying historically predates my existence, whether or not he believes that Christianity is objective or historical, where Ken could not possibly believe that what he heard, this Saturday Night Live shtick performer, that it historically predates him in history. Okay, there's no historical parallels between what the shtick you just heard versus Christianity. So either you're thinking out of fundamental ignorance, Ken, about the historical relationship between the two positions, or you are deliberately overlooking it and trying to falsely say that they are parallels.
All right.
Next.
Wait. Ken, Ken, we're trying to be fair. I don't think it is fair actually to be a drive-by. So if you want to re-engage Darth, you guys can go after the next few people. So let's finish with Good Christian Boy. Darth, do you want to talk to him anymore, or do you want to just close off?
No, I'm not interested in somebody who's doing performance.
Okay, well, we are still going to let him complete his performance. So if you want a last word there, then you can go ahead. Then Darth can go, and then we'll pass it to Squad Leg.
To conclude, the fact that this heathen, this absolute, no, I'm sorry, Darth, that's wrong of me. I will not profane your name. Simply, I will relate the fact that you would reject the great master is offensive to me. And I will simply close by saying, hail the great ones. Ya Abath, Ya Azathoth, Ya Uxuklek, Yal Dolath, Yal Dendra, Yal Groth, Yal Njord Nidik, Yal Aya Nyalathotep, Ya Shubnigurath, Yal Choka, Yal Satya, Yal Seshoth, Ya Nehekh. I'm sorry, my copy of the Necronomicon is rather it's old. It's kind of damaged. Ya Ichenich, Ya Filichala Shikent, Ya Thulch, Ya Yogsothoth. Bye-bye.
Praise Shub.
Praise Shub.
Got anything to say to that, Darth?
Oh, I think it speaks for itself.
All right, Squad Leg, go ahead.
All right. So I would just pose the same question that Destiny did first, which is, what exactly is the method by which you're determining God's revelation to you?
Well, in regards to natural revelation, there's not a method. It's automatic because it's ordained by God. So I don't use a method to apprehend certain things within natural revelation. It's just automatically, I have it in my mental state, such as the reliability of my sense perception, the basic reliability of my cognition. God has ordained that I think this way automatically, and it's not something that I choose or a method that I use.
So it's okay. So it's by God's ordainment of your senses that you're able to determine the existence of. Okay.
Yeah. Other than the choice, other than the free choices of agents, God. Well, actually, God ordains choices as well, but that doesn't mitigate against them being choices. But God acts in complete sovereignty. So my fundamental mental states, such as having the basic reliability of my cognition and sense perception, is not something that I actually choose or assume. It's just something that I automatically do because I'm made in the image of God. So there's not a methodology there. It just automatically kicks in at a certain point of neurological development. So when God made Adam, because Adam was created mature, he didn't have to go through any maturation process. So he automatically operated with the mental state of accepting the reliability of basic sense perception and cognition.
Okay, I understand that, but why? Okay, so what compelling reason do you have? I don't mean like some sort of supralogical evidence. I just mean, what reason do you have to believe that that came from God? And I would posit that that is one of the least convincing explanations for the origin of sensation that I've ever heard in my life.
It wasn't. Well. I'm sorry that you feel that way, because it wasn't an attempt to persuade you.
Okay, but if it's that philosophically unsatisfying,
did you think that that was an attempt to persuade you? It wasn't. It was an attempt to answer a question.
well, that's great. But I mean, why would you hold a position that is so
You asked me.
philosophically unsatisfying?
Why. You asked me. Well, you deem it is philosophically unsatisfying because of your model of reality. Okay. If you shared the Christian model of reality, it would be entirely satisfactory. So the question is your model of reality by which you invoke my stipulation is unsatisfactory, can your model of reality be accounted for? Because in the absence of you accounting for your model of reality, you not being satisfied is meaningless.
What do you mean by account for?
Well, everyone operates from a model of reality when we speak.
Yes.
In order for any of our words to have meaning and intelligibility, ultimately, they have to be spoken from a context of the ultimacy of reality, which provides them with intelligibility. So when you said my words were completely unsatisfactory, they didn't conform or cohere to your network of beliefs or foundational beliefs and your model of reality. But you're presupposing that your model of reality is actual or vertical. Is your model of reality by which you declared it was unsatisfactory? Is that model of reality actual?
Actual? I wouldn't say that it is. No, not really.
Okay, so then when what I said to you, although it wasn't an attempt to persuade you, it was an attempt to answer you what my mental states were. When that's unsatisfactory, it's only unsatisfactory because my words do not conform and cohere to your unjustified model of reality.
Okay. Well, that's, I suppose you could say that, but
no, you said that.
Well, no, I'm referring to what you said. You said the reason that it doesn't like stick with me is because of my quote unquote unjustified.
Because it doesn't cohere with your unjustified model of reality. Those are your words.
Okay, but I posit that every model of reality is unjustified. I don't know
how do you know? How do you know
I don't.
that? How do you?
I obviously don't know.
Well, if you don't know that, why are you asserting it?
Because I have very good reason to believe that that's the case, and unless you can present evidence,
sir. Well, wait a minute. Let's slow down here. You're asserting something is the case, and you don't know it?
Absolutely. I'm very comfortable with not having 100% certainty on that belief.
Okay, I didn't mention psychological confidence, sir. I mentioned knowledge, justified true belief. Okay? I'm using the pretty standard definition of justified true belief, not psychological confidence in a belief that may or may not be true. Okay? So why are you asserting something that you don't know under the standard definition of knowledge?
What is the assertion that you claim that I'm making outside of knowledge?
You said nobody knows. Nobody can ultimately justify our model's reality. How do you know that?
I said every model of reality is unjustified.
That's right. How do you know that that stipulation is true?
I said that I do not know.
Okay, did you assert that every model of reality is unjustified?
I said that I believe that that's the case. I didn't say that I know that that's
Okay.
the
Okay.
case.
So all you're simply telling me is you possess a mental state.
I don't
Good.
think that's an accurate
Is
representation.
okay. Are you asserting that no models of reality are justifiable, or that you have a belief that no models of reality are justifiable?
Well, yeah, I'd say that I have that belief. I'm not asserting.
Okay.
That
Now,
no
now,
models of reality
do you understand that a belief is a positive attitude toward a proposition?
Well, it is an attitude. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I
good.
suppose so.
So that belief, you have a positive attitude toward that proposition. Is your positive attitude toward that proposition mean that the proposition is actual?
No.
Oh, then how do you have a positive attitude toward a proposition that is not actual? Could you explain that?
Sure. I don't believe that anything is necessarily actual at a basic level.
What about that statement?
What about it? What do you mean?
Well, what you just said is a self-contradiction.
Well, I said I believe that. I don't know how that just contradicts itself.
Right. Is that a knowledge statement, sir?
No, it's my belief, and that's one of the basic.
No, sir. Okay. You just made a fundamental error that people make every single day. If I say to you, I believe X, is that a knowledge statement?
Without some sort of framework around it, I don't really think so.
I believe. Wait a minute. I believe that there are rocks on the moon. Is that a knowledge statement?
A statement of knowledge in the general sense of being according to your definition.
Sir, this is not. I don't know why you are going into constrictions about this. It's a very simple question. Is the statement "I believe X" a knowledge statement?
No.
Okay, that is false, sir. Now, do you know what the knowledge statement is?
What is the knowledge? What is it like?
If I said to you, I believe there are rocks on the moon, the knowledge statement is I believe. It doesn't matter what the content of the belief is.
What knowledge is that expressing? What knowledge is that expressing?
I possess a mental state.
So it's what I said. It's like the
right.
assumption.
So the point is, do you believe that justified true beliefs are viable and possible?
I do believe that.
Okay. On what is the nature of reality that provides for that?
I don't know.
So then you don't know that you can know things, do you?
I suppose that's the case. Yes, I don't know whether or not justified true belief is possible.
Right. Okay. Do you know that?
What do you mean? I just said I don't know whether or not.
Right. Okay. Right. Is that a knowledge statement? The answer is yes, it is. So you know that you know some things, don't you?
I didn't claim knowledge to anything. I claimed to be unaware.
Do you know something? Do you know some things?
What, like, are you saying do I have justified true belief?
Yes.
Within the framework of reality that I accept, which is that I exist and causality exists outside of that, and like, you know, it's a framework and it's kind of stacked on top of itself. But within that framework of I have knowledge.
Okay, so you know some things. Can you tell me what's the ultimate nature of reality that provides for that?
For the existence of my knowledge?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay, so basically, when you make knowledge statements, it's completely unjustified, right?
I wouldn't say unjustified. I'd say there is some justification.
Are your knowledge statements justified? What is the means in your worldview by which something can be known in it with a justificatory path?
Well, I'd say that just like for me, the baseline is I have my axioms, which I've accepted, which is that I exist. That's something that I assume to be the case without evidence.
That just tells me your mental states. That doesn't tell me what the nature of reality is that provides the prerequisites for you to know things. I understand that you have mental states that you call axioms. Now, does the ultimacy of reality, whatever that may be, do you believe in God?
No, I do not have.
Okay.
Some sort of,
Are you an atheist or an agnostic?
well, I mean, in my experience, the only difference between those two things is just like the way people choose to refer to themselves. Most people who are quote unquote atheists are actually just agnostic. They don't think anyone's making
Okay, good. So you lack belief in God. Since you lack belief in God, do you lack belief in God because God is not rationally justified?
I lack belief in God because I have not been presented a sufficient level of evidence to indicate that.
All right. Is that a lack of rational justification?
I have to go off.
Bye-bye.
Sorry.
Sorry, did either of you, is he gone?
He's gone. He had to go.
Did you have anything else you want to say on that before we get the next person in?
No, I just a final statement. I think that his own flip-flopping, contradictory incoherence speaks for itself. This is what happens when you reject the revelation of the Christian God.
I would just say quickly that you'd have to demonstrate that that was contradictory or flip-flopping in any way. That's all.
I didn't even notice you were still there. Wait 1 second. Wait. Darth, it's Isaac. Ask yourself 1 second. Okay, Squad Leg, I didn't actually notice you were still there, so I moved to Darth. That's my bad. Squad Leg, do you want a closing statement before Darth?
I regrettably can no longer continue the conversation.
Okay, sorry. You go, Darth. And
All
then
right,
we'll move on.
Young. Thank you for the conversation, though. Okay.
Sure.
And I would like, even though we didn't agree, I want to compliment you that I think that you made a very sincere attempt to be truthful and honest, and there was no shtick or evasiveness or dishonesty. Okay.
Thank you. I was attempting to be respectful in the conversation.
You did. I thought you. Yeah, I thought you did a good job being honest.
You got anything you want to say, Tim, or is that it there?
That's everything.
No, I wasn't talking to you there, Squad Leg. Just asking Darth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he contradicted himself a number of times. 1 minute he said he knew things. Next minute he said he didn't. You know, then he starts talking about axioms, but that doesn't account for the nature of reality to provide for actual knowledge. So, you know, to sum it up, he doesn't, according to his own words, he doesn't know anything. And I said, that's the consequences when you reject the Christian God.
Alrighty. So next up is Seth, actually. Seth, do you want to ask whatever it is you want to ask?
I'm up? Did he fucking unmute me? Hello?
Presume. Can you hear Seth there?
Yeah, unmute me, fat fuck. Come here. Please unmute me. Oh my god.
Okay.
What did you call me?
Oh, I didn't call you anything, buddy. Let's just have this discussion.
Okay, bye. Next.
Well, one sec. Darth, I think he's just trolling because you couldn't hear him.
No. Next.
Okay, all right. So Insup, this is the original guy who we got you in here to debate. Go ahead, make your points.
All right, I want to bring this back to the problem of evil because I felt like Darth didn't really adequately address that. He appealed to two justifications of there being evil and suffering in the world. He used the free will defense, and then he used the sufficient reason / greater good defense. The free will defense fails because it doesn't account for animal suffering. Animals have no free will, and they weren't guilty of any original sin, so you can't use free will to justify their suffering. And then you said the greater reason, sufficient reason, whatever, that fails because that would falsify moral realism. That would mean that any action would be allowable and good because it would produce a greater good. So it would follow that there would be no reason to act morally. You would falsify your own belief. So you have a bit of a trilemma here. You can either reject the Christian God as you've defined it. You can reject that there is evil and suffering in the world, which would make you look crazy. Or you can reject moral realism. If you don't, you've got an internal contradiction in your worldview.
Do we still have you there, Darth?
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't doing the push to talk. Did you say that I'm guilty of contradictions?
Correct.
Okay. Are contradictions a problem in your worldview?
That's a red herring. Answer my question. It was a direct question.
It's not a red herring. I'm asking you a question. Are contradictions an actual problem?
I asked you a direct question. Answer me.
You made a stipulation that I contradicted myself. So I'd like to know if contradictions are an actual problem.
I asked you a direct question. Answer me.
Okay, you actually made several questions. Which of those questions, which more seem like a monologue, which of those questions would you like me to address first?
All of them.
Would you like to start with your first question?
Okay, how does the free will defense work for animal suffering? Go ahead.
Say it again.
How does free will defense work for animal suffering? Animals do not have free will.
How does the free will? Animals suffer because due to the malfeasance of mankind rebelling against God.
So that means that God is allowing animals to suffer because of things that they aren't guilty of. So that's immoral. So that falsifies that God is a morally perfect being. How
does that falsify God?
Because God is a morally perfect being, as you've defined him. He's allowing innocent beings to suffer for a crime that they did not commit. That's immoral by a Christian standard.
It's not immoral, because the Bible makes it very clear that God, there is no defect in his righteousness or character when animals suffer through the sin of man. Now, you said that there are contradictions. Now, can your worldview establish that any contradictions are a problem?
Okay, I will move to that, but you dealt with that in a very bad way. So first of all, is it justified for innocent beings to suffer?
If you do not answer my question, the conversation will be over.
I want to answer that question.
If you overtalk me, the conversation will be over, sir. Now, I directly answered your question. You raised the issue of contradictions a number of times, that they were problematic, and in fact that they were defeaters or falsifiers for the Christian God. Now, there's going to be some quid pro quo here. If there is not, the conversation will be over. Now, can you account and establish that contradictions are an actual problem in your worldview?
Okay, Darth, I will talk about that, but can we stick with the issue of animal suffering?
I'm waiting for an answer to my question, sir.
So are you saying that you're not going to continue the conversation unless I move to that?
I would like an answer to my question. I answered your question. I'm asking you a question.
Okay.
Do you have a rational justification that contradictions are an actual problem in your worldview?
So, Darth, I will go to that if that's really what you want to go to, and you'll drop out of the conversation otherwise. If that's what you're saying,
I'm waiting.
So that is what you're saying, right?
I'm waiting for an answer to my question, sir.
Darth, please just answer. I don't want to mess around.
Sir, I don't want to have to move on to somebody else. Are contradictions an actual problem in your model of reality?
Okay, so I'm going to take that you're saying that you will drop out the conversation. So I guess you're forcing me to move on to this issue. So yeah, they are.
Okay. Can you explain to me in your worldview why contradictions? How do you account that they're an actual problem?
Yeah, I have irreducibly normative reason to reject contradictions.
I'm specifically referring that A cannot equal not A.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I have irreducibly normative reason to accept that.
No, I'm not. All I heard was irreducibly. Is the law of non-contradiction true at all times and all places?
Yes, and I have irreducibly normative reason to accept it.
Okay, can you tell me, how do you know it's true at all times and all places?
I know it immediately.
How do you know the state of all entities?
Yeah, well, are you asking me to provide an account? I don't know the state of all entities. I know the state of certain.
Okay. Is it true that for all entities represented by the letter A, that all entities always equal themselves in a time index? and they can never equal or coexist with their denial or negation. Is that true?
Yes, I accept the laws of logic because I have
right now, do you know that in virtue of sense perception or your imagination?
I know it in virtue of what I immediately know.
You know it because of what you know? That's the answer?
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't answer the question. How do you know that for all entities they cannot equal their negation at all times and all places? How do you know that?
That's because I have irreducibly normative reason to accept that proposition.
I don't understand what that mumbo jumbo is. Can you tell me in plain, simple words, how do you know that all entities could never equal their negation at all times and all places?
So yeah, do you know what a reason is?
I'm waiting for an answer and my patience is growing thin.
Okay, if you wanted me to answer it in simple English, then there's going to have to be some quid pro quo.
Sir, I'm waiting for an answer.
Yeah, so I'll just explain it then. Okay.
Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead, I'm waiting.
So I'm getting to it. So a reason is something that is counts in favor of you accepting some belief or doing some act. It's irreducible, can't be restated in non-normative terms, and it's normative because it pertains to what you ought or should do. So I have irreducibly normative reason to accept various propositions, including the laws of logic.
Yeah, that's just a bunch of gobbledygook. How do you know that all entities cannot equal their negation at all times and all places?
I know immediately that I have a justification in the form of an irreducibly normative reason to accept that.
Do you know that some planets cannot equal their negation at any time and any place? Do you know that there are no planets out there that they cannot equal their negation? Do you know that?
That would follow from the laws of logic, which I know.
No, I'm asking you to account for the law of non-contradiction. Do you account for it in terms of your sense perception or because of your thoughts?
So you're going to need to clarify what you mean by an account.
All right, listen, my patience has just about run out. Please justify for me that for all entities that exist, they can never equal or coexist with their negation. If you give me a philosoph-speak answer, I will move on to somebody else, sir.
Well, look, Duff, I did explain it in simpler English. I mean, I could probably take more time to explain what I mean by that if you'd ask.
You have 30 seconds to answer the question. If you do not answer the question, if you answer it in double talk, I will move on to somebody else.
Could you restate the question, please?
How do you know for all entities that exist that they always equal themselves and can never equal their negation at all times and all places?
Yeah, I know it immediately. It's intrinsically credible. The reason that I have to accept that is.
That's not an answer to my question, okay? You said you know it immediately. How do you know? How do you know that for all planets in the universe, they always equal themselves and can't know their negation? How do you know that immediately? Have you visited all planets at all times?
It follows from the law of non-contradiction.
Right. That's okay. How do you know that the law of non-contradiction holds?
That's because I have, like I've said, I have an intrinsically credible, indubitable reason. What's the problem?
Listen, we're done. We're done. We're done. Do you think you're fooling me with your double talk?
This is what I like. You can ask people. This is what I genuinely believe.
Listen, sir. No, listen, sir. I'm a fairly intelligent person. I'm fairly well educated.
I'm sure.
Right. So we're going to move on. I requested you several times to give me a straightforward, clear answer instead of giving me philosoph-speak double talk, and you essentially refused to answer the question while pretending to answer it with double talk. So we're going to move on to the next person.
All right. Well, I'm going to make my closing statement, Darth. So would you like to go first, or should I go first?
No, you can go.
Okay. So Darth is demonstrating his hypocrisy here. I actually do hold that view. I mean, I could take more time to explain it, but he doesn't really want me to for some reason. So that's my view there. And he just rejects it on similar grounds that he claims we should we should reject our atheistic views or naturalistic views. He's using the very same argument that he deploys against everybody else. I just don't understand why he's such a hypocrite. Now, of course, we all noticed the dodge. I brought up the problem of evil. I made my case for it, and he immediately jumps to his little script that we've all heard before. He's just a dodger. He can't handle arguments against his own position. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, is my mic working?
Yeah, it's working, man. Let's hear your towering intro.
Okay, so basically we had the problem of evil invoked. There is no inconsistency in God's temporal judgment. Include animal suffering. Animals suffer as a consequence of man's action. Man was warned that death would ensue on the planet if man ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So the blame goes for the death of animals upon man, because God is righteous in his temporal judgment. So animals suffer, so-called innocent animals suffer. Animals are neither innocent nor guilty. Animals just suffer because of the consequences of man's agency in violation of God's command. Now, he said that there were a number of contradictions that allegedly falsified the Christian God. When he was asked to establish that contradictions are a problem, all we got was philosophy and double talk. He was asked 6 or 7 times in plain English to account that the law of non-contradiction holds at all times in all places. And all we got was a gobbledygook response. We didn't get a justification that all entities always equal themselves and can never equal their negation. Only said he knows it immediately, but he never explained how he knows that. So that was a complete waste of time dealing with him. Next.
Okay, so we are actually approaching the end here. Now, okay.
Yeah, I'll take one. I'll take one more.
Okay. Well, I know Carlos wants to go, but I think also JHC has something quick for you. Do you mind doing 2, or are you calling it now?
Who?
His name in here is Protoss Armada.
Is he one of the? Is he from Krillism?
He's not really tight with the Krillism people. That's kind of why we've always liked him here. I mean, worst case, he says something you don't like.
What's his screen name?
His screen name in here is Protoss Armada. He's at the very top of the list.
Protoss, have I put you on my troll list before?
Oh, he's typing. I don't know. Do you actually have your mic right now, man, or are you micless? Oh, yeah, okay, you're gonna have to do it at another time. He says apparently you are on the troll list. Okay, and then yeah. Seth, who you've said you don't want to talk to, apparently he does actually have a serious argument about perception. Is that something you're interested in hearing?
Well, if I said earlier I didn't want to talk with Seth, was he the one who was cursing me out?
I think there's more than one person who did that, but he was, I think, one of them. Yeah. So
okay, well,
I'm asking you if
we'll move on. Yeah, I'm not going to change my mind. We'll move on to somebody else.
Okay, and just to be clear, him saying he wants to come in with a serious argument, that's not a mind shifter there for you?
Okay. Yeah, we'll move on to the next person.
Okay, all right. Unless anyone else wants to go, it's just Carlos. That's the end of the list. All right, Carlos, go ahead.
Okay, hold on, man.
Hold on, can I?
Whoa! You guys have your time. It's my turn. Okay, I am the final boss of this server, hombre. You have rambled on long enough and cut down several other innocent people, but I am here to end your spree. Okay? I have to tell you my story before we even move on, man, because it's very relevant to Christianity. I was a Christian for many years, hombre, many years straight. Unfortunately, one time I went to my grandmother's house, okay? Which is in Cuba. And I was locked in her basement with a chain. This is not a stick, by the way. You might say that this actually happened, okay? So please don't judge me. I was locked in her basement for fucking months straight. I begged and I begged God and Jesus, whatever the fuck, to come help me. He never helped me. That was when I lost my faith in Jesus, man. And I moved on to atheism. But there was always something inside of me that has wanted to believe in God and Jesus. Nobody else would tell you that in this service. So if you can give me good reasons for God existing, I'm open-minded. I'm willing to listen to it and maybe even go back if you can convince me.
So you have a lack of belief in God or a denial of the existence of God?
I have a lack of belief.
Okay, so you lack belief in God because God is not rationally justified?
I lack belief in God because I see no evidencio for God.
Okay. Does that include the universe?
That includes the universe, yes.
Okay, so the universe is not evidence of God in your view?
Nope.
Okay. What's the causal origin of the universe then?
I have no idea.
Well, if you have no idea, how do you exclude God?
Well, see, here's the thing. I exclude him, but not determinately. Like, I'm willing to see evidence, but if you just say God made it, though, I could say Bigfoot made it, though. Like, that's not proof.
Well, actually, you could, that would be a logical contradiction to say Bigfoot did it. Okay.
Well, you never know that. What if Bigfoot had divine fucking powers?
Carlos. Okay.
Wait, sir. What if Bigfoot?
Carlos, please don't overtalk me. Listen, sir. Carlos. Okay, Carlos. If you're going to keep on doing this, I'll stop talking with you. Now, Bigfoot is a material being and is actually a subset of the universe. Okay. Now, so something cannot create itself. If something is a subset of the universe, it cannot create itself. Number two, you stipulated that the universe is not evidence for God, which means that the universe does not have its causal origin in God. That is your stipulation. When I asked you what is the causal origin of the universe, you said you didn't know. If you don't know what the causal origin of the universe is, then you don't have a basis to say that it's not God. You may say that you're unpersuaded, but to say that there's no evidence for God, what you need to do is you need to have a more modest statement saying, I'm unconvinced. But to stipulate that the universe is in fact not evidence, and that would entail that the universe does not have its causal origin in God, then you're going to have to tell me what is the causal origin of the universe that thereby would rule God out. Unless, of course, you had a defeater for the existence of God. Do you have a defeater for the existence of God? I don't think so, because you told me you merely had a lack of belief and not a denial of the existence of God. Now, your atheism, which constitutes a lack of belief, is because there's not justification or evidentiary support. Now, rational justification is going to require that you live in a certain kind of a universe where there's matter, energy, causality, and laws of nature. So since you do reason, do those things exist, matter, energy, causality, and laws of nature, that provide you with the capacity to reason?
Well, if I could trust my senses.
I didn't ask you about your senses. I said, since you have the capacity to reason, and reason is going to require the reality of the external physical world, causality, and laws of nature, do those prerequisites of reason exist?
Sure.
How do you know it?
Well, I have to rely on my senses, but then again, like, how do you know the universe hasn't always existed?
Okay. How do I know that? Do you believe in science?
Yeah, mostly.
Do you accept the second law of thermodynamics?
I don't know what that is.
That means that everything is moving from a state of order to disorder.
Well,
the first and second law of thermodynamics are some of the most highly regarded laws of science. Do you accept those?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, if you hold to the second law of thermodynamics and the universe has been around forever, then the universe would have reached a maximum state of disorder or entropy. So that would be inconsistent with the second law of thermodynamics. Now, you need to give me an account or a justification that causality exists. You told me you use your sense perception to justify causality as a prerequisite for your reason. Appealing to sense perception to justify causality is begging the question. Sense perception is a set of causality. So all you're simply saying when you appeal to your senses or your eyes, you're saying a set of causal connections, eyesight, therefore causal connections. Arguing causal connections, therefore causal connections, is begging the question, and it is a philosophical fallacy. So other than appealing to begging the question, do you have any other means of justification for causality in order to establish that you can reason and reason about God?
Well, wouldn't you use your senses also to discover God?
It doesn't matter what I think, sir. Can you justify causality? Because without justifying causality, you will have no basis to claim that you can reason and then reason that you lack belief in God. So what's your justification for causality, sir? Since God requires a justification, then your God, which is matter, energy, causality, and laws of nature, also require a justification. Now, if you don't offer a rational justification, you will be violating your own principle. What is your justification for causality?
Well, the way I see it, me, Mano, the only thing I can do is rely on my senses, really, which are just as flawed as yours.
Okay, first of all, we're not discussing that it's flawed. You are begging the question. Do you know what begging the question is?
Sort of.
Okay. You are resorting to a fallacious line of reasoning. When you appeal to eyesight to justify causality, eyesight already entails causality. Could you see things if causality didn't exist?
Probably not, no.
Okay, so causality has to exist first before you can invoke eyesight, right?
Well, what if God let me see without causality?
I asked you a question. Does causality have to exist first before you can invoke eyesight?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so when you invoke eyesight, you're begging the question. That's a fallacy. You're going to have to justify causality in some other ways instead of a fallacy.
Yeah,
so
but
go ahead and do it. Okay, sir, evident to what? How is causality evident? Is it evident to your senses?
No, it's self-evident. It goes beyond the senses to a very deep level beyond the senses.
How is causality self-evident, sir? Is it evident to your imagination?
Yeah.
Okay, so you imagine that there's causality. Is that correct?
Well, I don't imagine. It's beyond that. I have like a deep bond with causality. I have seen it self-evident. We have a relationship now.
Okay, so Carlos, okay, we're done now because now it's clear you're doing shtick and stand-up comedy, and we're done. I don't do that, Carlos. Listen to me carefully. I don't do that, Tango, Carlos. Okay, say hello to my little friend. I'm done.
Oh man, it is no stick though. Please, there's no stick.
I have to say, Darth, he actually, I thought he was a troll too. He actually just talks like this.
Oh, I wasn't referring to his accent.
And his weird expression.
I was referring. Yeah, when he's talked about that he knows intimately that there's causality. I mean, this is either a shtick or it's one of the most ignorant statements I've ever heard.
I honestly don't think it's shtick.
Well, then he's a very ignorant person.
Do you want to continue with him, or do you want?
Yeah, no, I'm done.
All right, Carlos, have your closing words.
Well, I would not see it as ignorance because I have a deep relationship of causality. I would see it as you being ignorant because you're being judgmental toward the fact that we've built a relationship far deeper than you will ever have with God. God, listen, when you talk with God, God does not call you back. Causality calls me back every day. Okay, so we have a good relationship.
Yeah, well, Carlos, you didn't offer a rational justification. You just kept on reasserting causality. That's begging the question. And what you've done, evident to what? Your thoughts or your sense perception?
Both.
Okay, well, when you say sense perception, that's begging the question. So how is causality self-evident to your thoughts?
Well, it's self-evident just because it simply is. It is beyond my capacity to explain it. It's just simply self-evident. I feel it within my bones and my bones as a person. I would say so if I believe it.
Carlos, may I recommend that you try out for the next tryout on Saturday Night Live?
I am not a troll, man. The last one was a troll. This is who I am as a person. You cannot judge me like this because I was born as a Cubano.
Maybe, well, maybe that being chained up for a long time did some damage.
It did do damage to my belief in God. I was hoping that you could restore it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, you know God exists regardless of people treating you badly. The Christians in the first century were thrown to the lions, and yet they didn't doubt God's existence because they knew not to love this present world. Now, the question you're going to have to ask yourself, do you love this present world more, or do you love fellowship with a loving God who awaits to forgive your sins and to relieve all unhappiness, sin, and suffering when you die? Okay, it's that simple. And you can psychologically, well, no, actually, you know,
how can I believe that if I have no evidence for it?
The Bible said, well, Carlos, your worldview doesn't have a basis for evidence. Evidence requires causality. You have no justification for causality. How can there be evidence for things when you haven't justified causality, Carlos?
I have justified it.
No, you didn't, Carlos. You gave me mumbo jumbo.
That was not mumbo jumbo. It was self-evident.
It was claptrap poppycock, Carlos.
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, well, why don't you look in an English-Spanish dictionary to look up claptrap and poppycock, okay?
Fine.
Okay, thank you, Carlos.
Carlos, did you want any final words there?
My final words are, I believe that he is actually a good man of God. However, he is somewhat judgmental towards people like myself and other minorities who come looking for God but get rejected by a very judging white person who wants to speak down to us because we were not born in a clean.
Carlos is going to pull the race card now.
Okay, Darth, let's let him make his point, and then you can go.
I have tried.
If the glove does not fit, you must acquit.
I have tried to raise. I have tried to raise myself above the dirty standards I was born in, hombre. So I do not appreciate being judged. If you did have proof for God that was self-evident, I would believe it. I truly would. But you haven't given me enough evidence. If it is self-evident to you, I congratulate you. But it just
Carlos,
Darth, come on, let him finish his point. Carlos, dude.
Someone shut Darth up. Fuck.
Yo, well, I'm trying to be as fair to him as everyone else, but yeah, Darth, you got to let him finish his statement. Carlos, do you have anything else to say, or are you done with your closing there?
I want to say that perhaps if there is an afterlife, Darth, we could meet there and have a more intellectual conversation with full enlightenment from having died and been reborn.
Yeah, Carlos is psychologically deceiving himself because he insists that if he had rational justification or evidentiary support for God, he would believe it. The fact of the matter is, Carlos believes in a number of brute facts about existence that permit him to reason, but he doesn't have a rational justification for it. He demonstrated it with the issue of causality. He couldn't defend or give a rational justification for causality, and all we got was a bunch of mumbo-jumbo claptrap garbage from him. So on the one hand, he says, oh, I would believe in God if there's rational justification, but he believes in other things that are brute facts that replace God, but he doesn't have a rational justification, just mumbo-jumbo. Can you imagine me using his line of reasoning for the existence of God? Do we think Carlos would accept that if I simply took out the concept of causal connections and I put in the word God and I used the same line of reasoning for God that Carlos used for causal connections, that Carlos would accept that? Carlos would reject that in a heartbeat. So he's just psychologically deceiving himself, and he's just making a pretense that if he had justification, there's overwhelming objective evidence for God in all that exists. But Carlos wishes to worship the creation rather than the one true God. And the Bible is absolute objective revelation of God, and the denial of it leads to absurdity. The proof that Carlos asked is that without the Christian God, you can't have evidence, justification, or proof for everything. Carlos wants to deceive himself that he can have justification, but you heard him here tonight. Other than a bunch of mumbo-jumbo claptrap, he had no justification for his most bottom basic beliefs about reality. So Carlos is not telling the truth. And I'm done.
All right. Well, Darth, you said you wanted to go after that, so I think that's all. You can always come back here and debate people more if you want to in the future.
Sure. Thank you and thank you for the excellent moderation.
You know it, man. All right.
Okay.
Have a good
And
one,
if you could
Darth, and
send
everybody
me,
else.
could you send me a link to the audio when it's available?
Yeah, it'll actually be in the recording text channel. The bot will auto post it there.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. Have a good night, Darth, and everybody else.
Well, fuck